at
Dude,
you.
Jimi Hendrix is in here. What's going on? This is fucked.
Okay.
Nirvana was not expecting Jimi Hendrix to show up and stuff.
Wait, Nirvana was mowed down by Jimi Hendrix's chainsaw. That's awesome.
It would have been hilarious too, because he actually has like an afro and everything and like purple armor on. So
Wow, you're not
it's
kidding. I see that.
This guy's like some guy who's only played Doom Deathmatch for 500 years. He's just like running at me with a chainsaw. Like, this is what he does to all the new players.
Well, that's probably how Doomkid coded him. Hello and welcome to An Evening with Nirvana. That is Doomkid and MtPain talking to Nirvana on our Chat and Frag, big air quotes, podcast. You'll know Nirvana, hopefully, as the creator of Fractured Worlds, Entropy, Breathless, and two of my favorite maps from Haste. We're looking forward to talking to him today.
I never heard of him. What are you talking about?
Oh no, he's quite famous to players who actually play single-player Doomkid.
I don't know what that is.
So anyway, Nirvana, it's good to have you. How you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm just trying to kill some bots at the moment.
Bots named
Really warming up.
MtPain27.
You're a bot, MtPain. Dude, I love that he fought so many like bots. He was just like, dude, this bot right
Well,
here.
the bots keep disappearing. I'm a little upset. I was really warming up. Now I gotta deal with this MtPain guy.
I neglected to
Jimi
mention.
Hendrix and Captain Toenail. They couldn't quite bring it, but MtPain, you got to look out for him. He can actually.
He's a fragger, dude.
I play slightly better than a bot. That is a pretty accurate summation of my Doom
Oh, yeah.
deathmatching abilities. I neglected to mention.
Word for word, what was implied, of course.
In my amazing intro, I neglected to mention that Nirvana is at this point quite famous also for his actual Evening with Nirvana podcast, on which both Doomkid and I have appeared. I've said this a million times and will continue to say so, but go listen to it. There's tons of great guests on there, and hopefully one day Nirvana will get to interview somebody from outside of the Doom community, because that's what he's been promising
it's a great
since day one.
People are always telling me it's a great podcast. He has the best Doomers on. Others are coming up to me and saying, "Listen, I've heard podcasts before. Some were good, but this one is
Get
great."
out of here,
You know?
Trump! Get out of here. We don't want you on our podcast.
Sorry.
I don't want to alarm you guys, but I clipped into the floor.
Yeah, I
what?
noticed that when you died. I saw you. I saw you sink into the floor. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah. Oh, I'm back out. Okay.
He's risen again.
There are some wild things going on.
I know.
I just died. Now I'm freeze framed on my dead corpse in third person.
I forgot to password the server, so it's public. That's wonderful.
Well,
Oh no,
we
Coin
need
Man is coming.
we
in.
need to have Ralphus show
Is
up,
it-
Doomkid. He always shows up.
Oh, that's
Is it-
true.
He's a crypto bro. I'm permanently stuck in third person, but my camera's locked onto my feet.
Dude, try pressing either look for chase cam. Go in your menu and look at the controls and look for chase cam. Also, I see your corpse in the ground. What the actual?
Yeah,
fuck?
I'm saying I killed him and he fell into the floor. It was totally
Oh, a
bizarre.
lot more is happening than just chase cam. Let me tell you.
Well, when we had
Just
Jimmy
what-
on, he clipped into a wall multiple times and just got stuck and couldn't do anything and couldn't even like leave the game. He had to close the whole program.
I have to spectate and look at Nirvana's view. This is
I'm now bold. Don't ask me how that happened.
What?
what?
I'm
So it's
respawning
now-
as random people. There's a lot happening.
Is he getting hazed?
I'm
Doomkid,
exploring it.
is he getting hazed as a new user of Z-Daemon? Is that the idea?
I don't get this because on my end it looks like he's not bald
Yeah.
on the HUD, but he spawned facing the corner, and I put that spawn there, and I know that's not where that spawn faces. So something fucking weird is going on right now.
I mean, I have the footage, so you will get to see exactly.
I
what
can't
is
wait.
going on.
I can't wait to see it.
It's a
Well,
roller
dude.
coaster ride.
30 years of multiplayer Doom brings us the latest innovations with Z-Daemon. Play on the floor.
Oh my
Play
God.
bald.
I did want to. We do have a couple of questions for Nirvana to give this some semblance of structure. But do we want to resolve our technical difficulties first, or do you want to plunge right into it?
I wouldn't mind resolving this one because
Okay,
I
let's
mean
try,
I can't actually play right now. I will be-
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Should I just?
Oh.
Oh.
see
Okay.
if
Yeah.
this helps.
I'm back. I'm back,
Are
baby.
you
Hell
in
yeah.
reality now?
Reality.
Okay, it actually looks like he can somewhat see me and react to me now, so...
Yeah.
Which you guys should be more or less on the same turf because you're both in the same soil. So,
Yeah.
like, from my
I do
end,
want to say MtPain is in a very privileged position here, where he got a US server.
yeah. I mean,
with 2 people in Australia. What is going on? That's my question.
I'm definitely lucky to be an American. But historically, my internet has been totally terrible. I told the fellas before we started that I'm using my phone to get internet because my router is that inconsistent. So
It is, you know, it's
give and take.
MtPain's lag. Like, his connection from what I've seen, like, sure, there's like a second delay between when I do anything and the game reacts, but I'll take that over the weird, jittery, cocaine-fueled nonsense that his footage turns into half the time. It's like, the lag, even though he's only got a ping of like 80 or 90, it just goes insane.
It's packet loss, I think. I still have a limited understanding of what that actually is, but...
Well, it means your internet connection's trying to travel along some fucking telegraph line where the copper is slightly eroded.
Oh man, I need to turn this announcer either very down or very off.
Dude, I turned the volume all the way down, because being like, pew pew, oh cool, Doom guy got a frag. 1 frag left!
Yeah,
That's what I'm experiencing.
He's been off for quite a long time for me as well.
Alright. I seem to be sort of
helpless.
ready to rock now again for the 50th time.
All right.
Are we ready for square zero of this podcast to begin?
Yes, I think we are.
I'm actually ready.
I'll take the first question. Doomkid, do you have the questions in front of you in case you wanna like follow up or add stuff?
My second monitor where I would normally have them doesn't fucking work anymore, so I need to minimize it to get them.
I'm just kidding.
Look, these excuses are 100% valid.
You know what? You can do color commentary on my questions. I have them in front of me on my phone, so I'll
okay. I'm sorry. Normally I would.
I never have a second screen, so I don't have an excuse. Anyway,
we're in the same boat there.
Yep. So Nirvana, your first question to all of your guests is, how did you get into Doom? So I'll just steal from you. How did you get into Doom?
Oh, this is scary being interviewed, actually. Now I know how my guests feel. How did I get into Doom? I suppose I didn't actually start with Doom 1, I don't think. Like a lot of people. I had older brothers, and they used to play Doom, and it was mostly Doom 2 at the time. I feel like most of what I used to see was just the classic, like, go to map 30, turn on cheats, watch the Icon of Sin like spawn monsters until the game explodes, because vanilla had a lot of limitations back then.
Do you remember like what era this would have been roughly? Early 2000s, late 90s, something like that?
It would have been late 90s, yeah. I think I was like 6 when I was first exposed to Doom, so it would have been like 97, 98, around that kind of time.
Right.
And I remember... I think we must have already had like Final Doom and stuff around when I actually started playing, but like we only sort of had like one family computer, and my brother didn't really like me playing the game because then he didn't get to play the game. So I used to just get kind of dumped in the middle of go to it, like he would just, because I didn't know how to id clip or like anything like that, so he just put me in the middle of all the Mancubi, like in that little drop down at the start of go to it.
Yeah.
And then he would just leave me there, and I would just have to figure out what to do.
How much, out of curiosity, what's the age difference between you and your brother?
It's actually pretty big, like I think between me and him it was like 10, 12 years.
Oh wow.
Okay. Because my brother is 7 years my senior, but I must have just had a really good, like, older dooming brother, because he helped me work shit out. He never pranked me with Doom. Hell, he was the whole reason I got Doom too. I would have been fucking stuck on shareware and a little later Ultimate Doom, if not for his help. So
this explains
hearing a brother.
Sorry, go
brotherly
ahead.
dooming stories always are fun for me.
This explains so much to me about how how your map design philosophy evolved. Being trapped in the middle of a group of Macubi as a kid is pretty traumatic. So
We're proved. That's, you know what? We've proved psychologically people's Doom experiences when they're young have an impact on the stuff they make. Like, my brother helped guide me through shit, so I became like a tutorial maker. Like, here's how to do. Like,
true.
Nirvana got tortured, so he became a torturer via mapping.
I wouldn't call him a torturer necessarily. There's been much worse sadists.
It's a little bit of colorful language.
Fair enough. So you said you kind of had Final Doom already. Like that's kind of like my situation, as you know. Like my dad didn't have Doom 2. Do you know where the Final Doom came from? And which of the two did you prefer, TNT or Plutonium?
Well, it was a disc copy of it, with the box and everything. I mean, I wasn't there for the purchasing of Final Doom. It just sort of existed. For me, anyway, as a kid. But I will say that was definitely, you were talking about how it was sort of formative for my mapping, and I think it did actually make like go to it into like a thing to conquer, because when I was a kid, I eventually ended up sort of like grinding my way through go to it without saves, because I just died to it so many goddamn times, and I had to destroy it. But yeah, it easily became my favorite map in the iWads. But yeah, Final Doom was just around, I guess. I really had no concept as a child of, you know, where people went to purchase these things.
No, I never. For me, it was always just like, oh, Dad came home with something fun. That's cool.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think that actually also explains your lack of antipathy towards TNT, just having it like as a presence. Like a lot of people don't like TNT because they're told about it well after the fact. Like I didn't even know about Final Doom until I was an adult. At which point, I mean, clearly, it's hard to have like a childlike fondness for it like I do. What makes you? You've talked about it a couple times on the podcast, but I wanted you to maybe expound a little bit more on why you're a TNT apologist. Like, what elements of its design philosophy have you come to like?
Yeah, I mean, I do think as a kid I sort of just treated TNT and Plutonia as like one and the same a little bit. I mean, I had proper Final Doom and I knew they were two separate games. I know a lot of people didn't know that. But I sort of played through them quite a lot, and when I first started making maps, like as a kid, I always used TNT as my base WAD, because it had like a couple of extra textures.
Yes, the fun textures and fun midis, dude. I don't blame you.
Yeah, and the MIDI as well for TNT is so good. But I think I will say my TNT apologist era, I feel like that actually came much later, because I feel like as you make a lot of Doom maps and you play a lot of Doom WADs, maybe you just kind of get more interested in like weirder, like quirkier design features.
Standard tech bases, they get boring after the 387th one. You're like, yeah, I kind of know what to expect here.
Yeah, and I feel like I was never enamored with Doom 2. It's probably my least favorite iWAD. So,
ironically, Doom 2 has a lot of experiments as well. I think Doom 2's experimentalism gets a little bit overwhelmed in its, more generic stuff. Because there's like, how many tech bases are there in Doom 2, really, compared to TNT?
Well, actually, compared to TNT, I would say they got to be pretty close. But one thing that I will say, Doom 2 falls into a similar camp. Not as maligned as TNT necessarily these days, but people who come to Doom new and start with WADs, they play Doom 2 and they're like, oh, this is shit, like, there's nothing that great about these maps. And I suppose it's true, but it's kind of a shame to see, like, a lot of the little genius moments that are kind of, like, lost like needles in the haystack, just getting completely missed by new Doomers. It's like, well, it's not pretty at a glance, so fuck it. And then they completely miss out on, like, some really cool shit that those campaigns have to offer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've actually heard like quite a lot of discourse recently of like, oh, the iWads, like if you played P-words, like newer P-words, the iWads are just bad. Like, there's no reason to play them.
Yeah.
I hear that a lot from like newer Doomers, which
ignorant fools.
Yeah, I say
it's definitely difficult, right? Because like, I mean, if I had come in and I'd played like all these new P-words and stuff, maybe I would have a similar sentiment of like, well, there isn't anything that worth playing in these old ones, but yeah.
sorry,
I don't know. I
don't mean to interrupt,
Sorry,
but
you go.
I am also in the floor now.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
there you go.
I've been in the floor a few times. This new, or not even new, because it's the same one for the last 6 months. But this version of Z-Daemon is like decaying or something. They need to release a new one.
Well, I'm
It's a
gonna
feature, actually.
take it as an advantage because they're having a hard time shooting me.
Yeah, it's hard to aim when your
Oh,
view is
now
like
I
2
know
meters
why
below.
Doomkid won effortlessly last round because he was in the floor half the time. Nobody could hit him. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Didn't mean to interrupt. About we were talking about the iWads being kind of tossed off. I think that's a bit of an irreverent take by the unwashed masses. Because I think you gain a greater appreciation for what P-Wads do when you see what they had to work with for inspiration. Not that you should go back and play from the very beginning, from the 90s on, and experience it linearly, but I do think that there's just a lot to... there's some perspective to be gained from seeing, what the original guys did.
It reminds me a lot. It hits some of the same notes as like some 15-year-old who thinks they know everything when they're brand new to the world, and they hear like really well-produced modern metal, and they're like, "Oh, old rock music has like a little bit of static. It's just worthless shit." And it's like, well, actually, no. Like, it's doing interesting things that the newer, cleaner thing isn't doing. Not that the newer, cleaner thing is inferior. That they're both have equal merit. But to write one off just because it's a little crusty, I don't know. I've always been drawn to things that are a little. It's got to be a little ugly to be truly beautiful.
I believe you've said that
Yeah,
before on this podcast.
I wouldn't say it's like completely a nostalgia thing for me necessarily, because I mean I play like a lot of older games. Like I played Ocarina of Time through for the first time like a few years ago.
Oh.
For instance, and I played Breath of the Wild just before it, which was sort of the impetus for playing Ocarina of Time. But I came out of it thinking Ocarina of Time is a better game than Breath of the Wild, like despite not having not played it as a kid or anything.
Right.
And that's
it was proof that you don't have to have the childhood experience to see the value in it,
So do you think that's...
Yeah, I think I'm not necessarily entirely guided by nostalgia.
So you think that's more of a they don't make them like they used to kind of situation?
I definitely am not that kind of person either. I actually,
No.
I think I despise that, like,
Yeah.
that kind of,
That's what I was wondering. That's why I wanted to ask.
It's
to
old, so
clarify.
it's good. It's just as equally as ignorant as it's old, so it's bad. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. Yeah, I think I hear that a lot as well. People like, there are just no good modern games, or
It's
like
just-
there's no good modern music or
Yeah.
whatever. And it's like, well, I'm pretty sure you've just like cloistered yourself off to like listening to and playing the same things you've always like experienced, and like it's clearly like a personal decision to not really enjoy these things. So I don't know.
Absolutely.
it's-
They're hearing what they want to hear and not looking for what they want to hear. They could, like, especially with music. There's never been a time in human history where more music is being made. So like, if you can't find something that you like, you're just not looking in the right places.
I think a lot of it too, though, is like a lot of it's bullshit. It's people jerking off at the jaw, saying things they don't mean because they think it'll make them look cool or something. Like these people, there's a song from 2 years ago that these people fucking love, but they think they're gonna look cool in the moment, saying, "Oh, there's no good new music." I think that's what it mostly boils down to. I think a lot of it's bullshit, jerking off at the jaw. You know what I mean?
Well, there's
Like,
definitely some. I've heard like the classic lamentation of "I was born in the wrong generation."
I
think
the wrong generation kids.
I mean, I think that's founded in some way. Like that's founded in the same kind of thing. Like I don't know. I grew up listening to pretty much just my mom and dad's music, which was virtually almost. It and contemporary music were
I was
mutually
standing
exclusive.
completely still for a minute and I just fragged you, MtPain. I'm sorry, but I had to point that out. I apologize, but
having established that I suck, let me continue my thought.
I'm sorry.
Um, so basically, like, I don't know, when I left my parents' house and was exposed to other music, I had a 5-minute phase of that. I was born in the wrong generation. All I like is old stuff. But then you realize that, like, it's just what you were exposed to and what you like, and there's, just basically limitless, especially with music. There's limitless, outlets now for finding, new fulfillment through music is pretty much everywhere.
Right. And it's very similar concept too. Like with anything of a artistic or creative nature, Doom and other things, it's always a tragedy to see a closed mind, no matter what direction it may be closed in. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not to veer too off into non-Doom territory.
I was gonna say we should get back to
Keep it on
Doom.
Doom. We got a contractual obligation. Has to be at least
Well,
30%
it's all
Doom.
vaguely applicable. We were talking about Doom at some point.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, Nirvana, you talk often about your early mapping and the horrors of Doomkid, which is always like some of my favorite stuff to listen to on your podcast, actually, because you commiserating with other folks like Doomkid who've actually either used it or were around it is always really fun. But I'm curious, like, what your early maps look like and where are they so we can play them?
Bad. They look bad. My earliest stuff is not up anywhere. I made like when I was a little kid, I did actually play my first sort of proper map on stream, like the first map that I made that had like an exit and stuff from when I was a little kid.
You still have it, man. That's impressive. All of my stuff prior to 2004 was just lost to me not caring until I was too late. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do have it. It was lovingly crafted in Doomkid. It's about 1,000 boxes in a row with like, it's like pretty much, I don't know, you'll go down one gigantic really long direction and then you'll have to walk all the way back and go down one other gigantic really long direction. The progression is very good.
Dude, that's Doomed. That's like my first Megawatt, Doomed to Die. Has a ton of maps that are serviceable. Like, they're actually not like super ugly. Like, they look almost E1 level detail. But there's a room that has a button and then it opens a door in some random other room that you have no way of knowing. Why in the 90s people thought that was the pinnacle of design, I don't know. But a lot of WADs did it, so it's even my early maps, I did that a shitload, so.
I feel like the concept of design was not like I wasn't thinking about level design. I feel as a kid, like I had no concept of that stuff really.
yeah. For
I
me,
was
it was
like, how many monsters can I jam in these boxes, and then
did you
try
have
to kill them later.
with your younger stuff that you made? Did you have anything where like you were going for sort of like a concept or anything like for example, a string of maps I made when I was a kid was like you were on an airplane flying to the city. And then you got out and like, it was all very 1995 levels of detail, but I did have something approaching a con. Did you ever have like a guiding light when you were young mapping, or was it just, let's see what we can do, you know what I mean?
Definitely not in terms of like story elements. It was mostly like I did have like, I think it's pretty similar, honestly, to like the kind of thing I do when I map now, which is that I would have like just an idea of like a cool setting for a space or a cool little like, I don't know, it might even be just like a pillar or something in a room, and then I kind of base stuff around that. Like I made like a forest with like a big canopy and stuff and little houses in it, like a little village. And
Nice.
That sounds so fun. I would love to see that.
it might exist somewhere still. I could maybe have a look around for it. But yeah, I feel like my very early stuff was simply a bunch of boxes, and then gradually it got better, and then I moved into, because I had a very weird trajectory where I like started with vanilla, and then I moved into, I think I got original Boom. Which was already, I think, kind of deprecated at that point, because like pretty soon after finding Boom, I found Z-Doom. And I used Z-Doom for quite a long time, and I like mapped for like hexed format for a long time.
Oh yeah,
Oh, wow.
the basically the predecessor to what we UDMF now, you know, those
Yeah.
slopes in deep water, man.
Yeah, I was like, I really wanted to use all that stuff originally. Like, I really liked all the features, but it wasn't until much later when, like, I made the first actual release I have on Doom World is a map called Snow Blast, which it was for a very long time ago. Mega Blast, he used to stream on Twitch, and he was gonna have a community project, with a bunch of people who are gonna make maps. I think Bemuse's first ever map was from that project.
Oh wow.
Like Bemuse started mapping because of that project. I think
when would this have been?
this was I feel like it was like I want to say 5 years ago, maybe like 2015, 2016, something like that. I think maybe Benchigami as well might have started mapping because of that project.
Oh wow.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but
So
all
very,
three of us were definitely like mapping around the same time and for that project.
It's a pretty auspicious project, and it's a lot of very famous names. Funny story. I actually played the first half of Snow Blast. I opened it up, and then I had a little panic attack when I realized that there was room over room and like 3D floors and stuff. And I was like, wait, what? I thought I was playing this in. I think I was playing in boom format. I did not realize how much extra hackery was going on there. And then I was like, okay, well, now that I've seen this, that's more or less the experience I needed to have. But it was a kind of a light bulb moment when I realized I could walk under enemies and stuff.
You didn't read the text document, MtPain27.
A rare case of me overlooking the text file. I usually read those.
Yeah, I was gonna say for you, I think most Doomers actually do that, but I know you're very detail oriented. It was clearly not the norm for. I know whenever it's funny, I've asked MtPain about WADs before, and if he does know them, he always knows so much about them. That's one thing I do love about his. He's got a great memory for those kinds of things.
Well, I'm quite the.
I'll read the text file then forget it all. See.
Yeah, you've probably played more Doom than I have, like in terms of the number of PWADs. And just the old saying, "You've forgotten more about Doom than I'll ever know," is probably apropos here.
I said that to Sandy a couple weeks ago. It was pretty fun.
So I'm glad we could hear a little bit more about your early mapping. I know that's not like the legacy you want to leave behind, but it's fun to hear mappers talk about their juvenilia. Let's talk PWADs you've played. That's
Who needs legacies anyway?
Well, no one needs Doom Legacy.
Whoa. We're just out here slandering boards.
I mean, I don't even know anything about Doom Legacy. I was just making a pun.
You went too far, MtPain. I'm gonna have to reprimand you on that
Just
one.
making
That was below the belt.
It was below the belt, but I in my defense, I don't really, I didn't understand.
In your defense, Doom Legacy is a steaming pile of shit.
Well, I knew.
Whoa.
I'm kidding. I was just trying to one-up him. I'm sorry.
Someone built that board with love.
Yeah.
Let me talk to you about GZ Doom.
I had to, like, MtPain got in trouble, so I had to, like, jump in front of the bullet for him. It's just, you know.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. We both took one for the team. Something I'm always fascinated here when you ask guests to is when you ask guests on your podcast to talk about early PWADs they played. I'm always really curious to see like what early community created influences that players had. So I'd love to hear your first couple PWADs that you played and any favorites that you picked up.
Yeah, mine was kind of a weird trajectory. Like as a kid, I didn't really know too much about like the custom stuff, so I played a lot of the iWads just over and over again. And then when I could make, I used to play my brother's maps a lot as well. He was actually a really good mapper. Like,
Nice.
I think if he continued with it, he would have been like a very prominent kind of figure. But I don't think he ever wanted to like upload his stuff or anything. But yeah, I used to play his stuff a lot when I was a kid, and I used to just play through the iWads a shitload. I think actually like Doom 1 was probably my favorite overall experience. I think it's the most well-rounded experience.
Wow. Okay, alright. That's not a common one these days.
I think it is okay, I say Doom 1, I actually mean Ultimate Doom. I don't mean Doom 1.
Right.
I mean, because episode 4 to me, that's my favorite episode out of the WOD for sure.
Well, naturally.
Playing the first 3 episodes without the 4th episode is like eating the ice cream without the cherry on top, man. You need that. It completes... Because episode 4 actually does a degree of taking all the skills you've built up and testing them. Whereas,
yeah,
if it ended just at E3... And E3 has a couple of slightly hard maps, but no. It needed E4.
although I will say the final map of Ultimate Doom is not a great ending.
Nah.
No, you're right. It's a mostly great episode with a very shit ending. I would agree.
I wouldn't say shit. I think Sean Green did pretty well for himself. I like.
I mean, it's just a Cyber Demon or a Spider Mind again, though. Like it's so.
Yeah,
lame.
well, they didn't give him any new monsters to work with. If he had new monsters to work with, obviously, be more remembered. And I mean, it's kind of.
But even the map layout is just some cramped little.
Well, remember
brown thing.
the beginning with there's like 50 hit scanners, and it's like just this big slaughtery encounter, and I don't know. I've always kind of.
That's true. Well, at the time, in '95, that was actually still like a really cool and novel thing.
I mean,
you're right.
clearly, I'm sure what Nirvana is referring to in terms of like things to be adored from E4 is E4M2 and E4M6, because there's the DNA of Romero's 2 maps is, I think, present in a lot of your current stuff.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, definitely E4M6 100% is probably my favorite iWads map in Ultimate Doom anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And just for anyone who's listening who's only like vaguely familiar with E4, he's talking about E4M6, not E4M4, the little brown turd that was whipped out in 10 minutes. Not that one.
What's it
That's
called?
like that's
yeah.
the
The
E4M4
Romero
is
one
like,
with the teleporter in the middle and the Cyber Demon. That's,
Yep.
That's
What is
that
that?
good shit.
What is that map called?
that's cool. That's a cool setup.
I always
there.
get those jumbled.
Which one?
It's not Sever the Wicked. What is it? What's that map called?
Oh god. I always know them by their like number, not their actual title.
Like I'm listing them in my head. There's They Will Repent, Unruly Evil. I know Perfect Hatred and Hell Beneath. I know like the E1 or
Sure,
E4M1
sure.
and 2, but what the heck is it? This is really embarrassing.
everybody. No, it's not.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is extremely embarrassing, but let's move on.
Before it
Yeah, I mean,
festers.
embarrasses
I'm about to die of secondhand embarrassment here.
Let's
Yeah,
talk.
I think
Let's talk P-Wads.
sorry, I think we were talking about the P-Wads, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I was eventually rambling my way towards an answer, but I can't really remember the first like P-Wads I played as a kid, because I did eventually like stumble upon. It was maybe Doom World. It could have been like one of the sites that was around back in the day, but I can't really remember.
Maybe New Doom. Doom World's Pepsi. You know what I mean?
And I think, God, what was it called? What is it called? Mass something. What's
Mass
the
Mouth?
famous? Yeah,
Mass
the total
Mouth?
conversion. Yeah, I think I played Mass Mouth because I saw it and it looked really weird.
What a funny way to start.
I believe that might have been my first P-Wad experience, and I did not enjoy it very much. Which is no
Parts of it
commentary
had
on
to
Mass
entertain
Mouth.
me. Like, there must have been something in, like, I've had WADs where I played them, and I'm like, you know, it's not for me, but there is a little something in here I like. I hope that it was at least something more like that. Because I feel like Mass Mouth does have, it has something going for it. I don't know what exactly, but it's got something going for it.
I think I was impressed by sort of the texturing and things like that, which I hadn't really seen. But I think then, like, much later on, when I was into Z-Doom, I played the Z-Doom community projects, which are like, if people haven't played them, like, they're like these big sprawling maps put together by a couple of different mappers. Like, they're like a Franken map kind of deal.
Right,
Where like
right.
one person would build a section of a map and another one would add on to it, and they're really big and designed to show off like Z-Doom. I guess it was like Hexen format features at the time.
The second one has like 30
and
mappers in it, including texture artists and coders and stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, right. It does do a lot of crazy stuff, and I was really impressed by them when I was like a young teen, I think, when I was playing them. But in terms of like actual P-Wads that would sort of later influenced my style or whatever. I didn't really start properly playing POS until much later. Like a lot of people, I took like a big break from Doom, and then one day I was like on Twitch, and I was like, hey, I wonder if like people stream Doom. Like that'd be pretty cool just to be able to watch some, and that's how I found Mega Blast's Twitch channel, and I think he was playing like one of the 2048 was, I think, initially.
One of the oh, okay, yeah.
And he was under some fight and getting absolutely owned by it. No offense to him. He was pretty new to like Slaughter and stuff, and it was like a harder fight at the time. And I was like, oh man, I wonder if I could beat that fight, because I thought of myself as pretty good at Doom. I was like, man, I can do go to it saveless. Like I can do anything. And
If only you knew.
and I still played keyboard only at that point.
Oh wow. Well, saveless keyboard only go to it is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I used to play keyboard only, and then so I went and I did that fight, and I was like, oh, I was trying to help him with like the setup and stuff, and I had a lot of fun doing that. And then later on, he played Swim with the Whales.
Oh boy.
And he got to map 3, and he was trying to do the final fight. And he was like, oh, I think I have too little health to do it. So I like went into the map and I like id-clipped and lowered my health down to around what his was to see if I could do it from the point that he was up to. This was still keyboard only. And boy, did I get whomped. My god. Like, I hadn't played anything that difficult before. It was really, really hard, but sort of made me want to play more Doom like that. And then because of him, I basically ended up streaming, and I think I did like Plutonia first, and then the very next thing I streamed was Swim with the Whales, so that was like the first proper P-Word I streamed.
Wow.
Now, in your first stream, did you encounter the titular and very elusive whales, or?
Last no. Mostly death. But just to mess with your heads even more, I didn't play a keyboard only, I played it with a controller.
What?
Which kind of controller?
An Xbox 360 controller.
Jesus Christ,
That's
man.
the best of a bad bunch as far as like controllers for Doom goes, in my opinion.
Sure, but still.
Well, it was because I played Doom on the Xbox 360. There was like quite a good port of Doom 1, and I played it through on the 360 a while ago. And the controls, I was like, wow, these are actually pretty good for Doom. Like, because I used to be like a real console gamer, like played a ton of Halo and stuff.
You guys, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was just drinking a soda, and when I put it down, a single drop went from the soda right into my fucking eyeball, and it stings so bad.
Well, Doomkid is dead, so we can't continue.
I just got fragged IRL.
My condolences.
GG.
Well, okay, that's definitely the best answer to the PWAD question I've heard. Better than anybody who's in on your podcast, because you
What was the question again?
Well, basically, what PWADs did you get did you start your Doom playing career with? And you said Mass Mouth and Swim with the Whales and playing keyboard
the
only.
Classic route, dude.
Yeah, keyboard only.
Yeah, I mean,
and
everyone, everyone's it's like like the first WADs people start with are famously like Memento Mori, Scythe, or Mass Mouth and Swim with the Whales.
Yes.
It's a common trajectory. Everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
I shouldn't judge, especially because I did a very similar thing where I played keyboard only until I got Z-Doom. Z-Doom was the first port that I played that wasn't the Steam Doom DOSBox thing, and I also until like last year just played with my pinky anchored to the shift key to sprint. Because I just thought it was more authentic or something. So I've only
I didn't know about auto run until much later on.
Oh, you poor souls! You keyboard doomers.
I knew about it, but I chose not to. It's like, well, I feel more comfortable if I manually take my pinky off shift for when I wanna walk. So I don't know what I was thinking.
A true purist over here.
Yeah. Well, it's actually kind of useful. When I bump back to Doomkid got me set up with the Doom 95 port. Whenever I want to put that up, I'm used to holding down the shift key to run. It's not an inconvenience. So it was just training, is what it was.
Let me bring out my fucking fist. Oh my god, I pressed 1 a million times. Sorry.
I sometimes forget
Yes, I
we're
punched
actually
American Eagle.
playing
He's
Doom.
very focused on the frags in quotation marks.
It's the first time I've played Doom in like 14 days or something.
That's true. You've
I'm
been
pretty into
trolling
it.
the Outback. We'll talk about that later. Off mic.
Yeah, I hadn't played Doom for a really long time, and I put up this Casino clip from the podcast, and it was about Sunless, so I was like, alright, I'll play a Sunless map, and then for some reason I decided to play map 29.
Oh, okay.
And whenever I get these clips, I like to just have one chunk of footage, so I just play through like without saves on something. So I
Map
had to get
29?
through that fucking opening of Go Fuck Yourself.
I was gonna say, isn't that Go Love Yourself?
It
We don't need
is,
any
yeah.
swear words on here, sir. This is a PC, Christian-friendly Minecraft server.
Shush, Doomkid, you profane pig.
MtPain, I will destroy you.
I
will-
know. I was fully expecting a response of that ilk, but I was just thinking. I saw that clip and I remembered go F yourself, but I was still reacted with surprise for some reason.
It is interesting though because that opening absolutely tore me up when I played it. I played it the very first time. I played through Swim with the Whales, Stardate, Sunless, Sunder, everything with controller.
Wow. All on UV?
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
On UV.
Yeah.
And I had a pretty rough time, I will say, my first time through all of those woods. And then when I played Sunless Saveless, I feel like map 29 still tore me up. And now when I go back to it, it's a little more forgiving, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, did that going through those maps with controller and then kind of the revelation that playing with keyboard and mouse would be, did that make it that much easier? Did it feel like swinging a bat with the weight taken off, or was it still difficult? Like what was the acclimation period like playing with mouse and keyboard?
The major thing is the controller is, it's not, I wouldn't say it's better in any way, but
No.
it is more comfortable to play. You can relax a little more with a controller, I think. Like, you're not sort of... Keyboard and mouse is a very serious way to play a video game, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is.
It's a very serious way to like break your hands off at the wrist as well. Whenever I get into the game, I always start mashing my left and right hand down super hard on the desk. I'm like, I need to stop trying to detach my hands from my arms. It's probably not helping my performance any. Whereas a controller, you could just sit back and relax and get. It
I'm
helps a lot.
Personally, even controller, maybe I'm just a naturally like super tense person, but I have to be like close to the TV and leaning forward with the controller too. So I don't really play anything casually, you know. Or I mean,
So
500-inch TV right in front of it.
I mean, I'm
For
also,
me, it's like
not really.
I get more fun out of Doom if I sometimes do an intense one where I'm like, you know, mouse and keyboard leaning forward. Sometimes I just want to kind of lean back and not work too hard. It's relaxing to me. I know some people don't get much joy out of just you know, that Doom is fun for them as something to chip away at challenge-wise. But for me, it's always been something fun to just kind of like, I want to cruise through this like 16-bit world and shoot me some imps today. You know, it's very I'll go relax and have a sandwich on Mount Erebus. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Well, controller might be the way to go for you then.
but for those when I'm craving the relaxed mood, that it is a nice alternative.
You know,
Yeah, in terms of acclimating, I guess, like, I don't know, I feel like I very quickly realized how much better keyboard and mouse was and how much of a disadvantage I was at playing with controller, because I feel like Doom isn't really about precision aiming or tracking like other FPS games. It's a lot more about being able to flick quickly, because
yeah.
things like the rocket launcher and being able to flick your wrist to not blow yourself up, or like being able to utilize the BFG traces as quickly as possible, like those types of things are pretty fundamental to like playing harder maps.
Rapid changes of direction and weapon switching. I was gonna ask how you did weapon switching with the controller.
I think
D-pad,
I had
right?
them bound to the D-pad, so each weapon, it really wasn't bad.
That's a good idea.
Set up pretty well. well, I think.
Yeah, the actual controls on the... It's like you say, though, the ability to just do a 180 in like a split second, you're just never going to be able to do it on a controller unless you have a dedicated 180 button, and even then,
I
it's
did
not-
have a dedicated 180 button, but it's really, I feel like it's really clunky to use.
Yeah.
180. It's so disorientating getting turned around that quickly. You should go, everyone should go watch a GGG mock demo. He uses 180 very liberally.
Really?
Yeah.
That's probably,
cheating.
it's definitely the least utilized Doom movement technique.
I mean, for me, it's... I know that this doesn't necessarily mean anything. But 180 button was not a thing in vanilla, so I consider it very illegitimate.
But it wasn't it a
Was it not?
I thought
Are you sure it wasn't?
I thought that was vanilla, yeah.
I
could've sworn that it
turns you
existed
around
in vanilla.
immediately? No.
Well,
I
wasn't
thought it was on like some weird button too, like / or something.
Yeah,
But
like
I don't know. Maybe I'm just remembering.
it wasn't a boom thing. They didn't add a new, control.
It sounds like the kind of thing that Boom or early Z-Doom would have been keen to add. Although I'm not certain. It's a minor feature, I know, but I'm actually kind of curious when it first showed up in Doom.
Yeah,
now we're
I'm
talking
thinking
about
there's no way they would add a new movement option for Doom Guy. Like you can change the game in a lot of different ways, but Doom Guy's
that. Dude,
movement
they
is
added
virtually the
jumping
same.
and crouching and,
Yeah,
and
jump.
like air movement.
I
There's
guess you're
so
right.
many different ways
All
to
right.
control Doom Guy that have changed.
All right. Well, that's more obvious than what I was thinking. I guess I was talking about like in Unity, you can toggle automatic SR50, which I think is ridiculous. But like that would be an
Boom.
example.
No. PR Boom Plus used to have that, I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Or at least maybe the early version of DSDA was the thing, because there was a big, like the speedrunning community, it got banned basically.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
ended up.
Because it's
There was
that's a
even
fundamental
a,
change, in Doom Guy's movement capabilities. Like that's why I don't think they would add the 180 button so frivolously.
It's for me. It's like even the SR50 thing is kind of a. Obviously, if you just have it enabled and you don't have to do any skill to do it, obviously that is cheating. But I do recall that there was like some batch file or very minorly hacked version of the vanilla EXE that did enable it, and it was like a tiny amount of effort. But still, it's not legitimate. God damn it, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It's a very big deal, honestly. Being able to SR50 more easily, you use SR50 so much in speedruns that it really makes a huge difference.
oh yeah.
And often, like, I mean, there might be WADs where you lose a run because you miss an SR50 or something
Oh yeah.
if it's for a secret or, whatever it might be.
I wonder if someone has made like an automatic keybind input or something that makes it so it's not enabled 24/7 necessarily, but they could just like slyly enable it to do the runs successfully every time and then disable it again. Like,
Well, wouldn't that be cheating?
it would be, but I mean, this community is no stranger to fucking cheating. So
I guess
It's true.
that's fair.
I think the thing is that they can actually just look exactly at your inputs now when they load up a demo.
Oh yeah.
right, so they'd be able to see if you were like toggling and then untoggling.
They'd be like, what the hell is this weird, like, asterisk button press at, like, fucking 3 minutes? Or whatever.
right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Anyway,
Ah.
nice to BFG, MtPain.
I didn't even go for it the entire round, and I get punished immediately.
Dude, how do you even use BFG on ping? Oh, like that. Just wallbang.
On what? Sorry.
Just on the ping. Trying to get the BFG ball to come out at the right time.
You just do your best.
Yeah. I feel like there was a question asked like 20 years ago. And
Yeah,
where
it
have I
was
forgotten?
it was PWAD related. I'm curious. What are like? You've done a lot of streaming, obviously. I actually was unaware of that until you mentioned it on the podcast. You don't stream as much like nowadays, but you must have played a whole lot of Doom, and I'm curious. I know you like Swim with the Whales, but and Ribix generally. Would you say you have a favorite PWAD?
That is tough. I think I would have said pretty unequivocally Swim in the Whales when I began my mapping, but it's tough. Swim in the Whales is still definitely very high up there.
Yeah.
For me,
Um,
the more and more WADs I've played over the years, the harder and harder it was to pick favorites. I just have this giant list of WADs that I like more than other WADs that I also like. It's very hard to pick favorites these days.
It's tough, yeah. And I really like Swim with the Whales because it's Sunlust is like, I don't know, Sunlust is like the polished, like total package Rubik's and Dane kind of experience. Like that is, it's such a well put together Mega Word and stuff. But then Swim with the Whales is like more of a venture into like, I don't know, like Rubixian design philosophies that would kind of sprout up later on and stuff like 20xc7, I think.
Yeah.
I love the term Rubixian. That needs to be added to the.
I feel like he would hate it.
I
don't know why.
I won't claim this for certain, but I feel like I was one of the earlier people to come up with that. I've used it a couple of times.
That is
So
such
this
a
guy-
MtPainian claim of you to make. Oh my god, you guys! Actually, I'm the one who came up with that.
I'm just saying.
I think it was actually a Doomkidian saying, if I
Don't
remember
be so
correctly.
Nirvanian, goddammit.
Well, I'm just saying I won't authoritatively claim to have invented the term, but I just don't remember anybody using it before me. So.
I'm just shitting on you for no reason, like I love to do. I'm sorry, man. You know that.
If my experience with Doom has anything to say about this, it's that Time of Death did it like 10 years ago.
You're probably right about that, actually.
Yeah.
Well, then somebody's done it before me, and it's not. I mean, an anonymous or just a poster on the forums. I mean, for God's sake, the amount of text generated by the Doom World Megawad Club every month is evidence enough that somebody's.
I love how you referred to it as like a semi-intelligent AI generating shit.
That's not how I referred to it. It's text generated by the Megawad Club because there's.
I know. I just
like
the word
individual-
generated amused me.
Fine. All right.
Generated implies technology. I feel like maybe I'm wrong though.
A
little bit.
Well, I mean, whatever.
I just wanted to get in because I forgot to mention, but I think Eden by RD.
Oh, is that
who at the time?
Relatively new or an older one?
No, it's quite old now. Maybe like 5 years old, something like that. But it's like the only it's the only map that I properly decided to UV max because I liked it so much.
Nice.
It's got really great atmosphere. Haste map 10 is kind of built after the aesthetic of that wood.
Really?
I'm almost wondering if I've played it because I know RD does make some very interesting stuff, and the name Eden is familiar to me, but I can't conjure up a mental screenshot. Damn it.
Well, that's something I gotta check out.
There is another Eden wood, I think, that isn't RD's because I had to like specify, yeah, like when recording the demo and stuff, which one it was.
I see. So I could be getting the fact that I like some of RD's maps and the other Eden completely swirled together. It's very possible.
I see.
Potentially. It's a great map there.
Well, I believe it.
Atmospherically, I love it so much. Also, wow, this hungry like the wolf
I know, it's great, dude. I love it. Hearing that played on the Doom Overdrive guitar is just too amusing to me, man. I love it.
It's a great song.
It is.
Oh my god.
What the hell was I gonna say?
I just witnessed a murder. Our pain just got shredded, dude.
I feel
Dude,
like...
oh my god, my lag is making it so the lifts are only like raising and lowering halfway. Like there's a bunch of halfway lowered fucking computer lifts in this room. Like...
Good lord. I can't do anything right now.
Doom on ping is a wild ride.
It is, yeah.
It sure is.
I like how you refer to ping as like some sort of degenerative drug, like Doom on ping.
I mean, it's accurate, isn't it?
Ping.
It's true. It is degenerative of the game, that's for damn sure.
Son of a bitch. Well, my footage is gonna look good. Much better than usual.
Good. As long as it's nice and crisp, then that's fine. I felt like you were gonna say something before, Matt.
I can neither think of what I was gonna say nor deathmatch. I'm caught in a no man's land between.
So you're not focusing on one thing that we're doing right now.
Right. I'm not even here. I don't exist.
Yeah. He's like got another game open. He's playing Cookie Clicker or something in another window.
It's hilarious.
It's like I was distracted too because there was a corpse sliding around for like 5 minutes straight just then on my end.
Well,
so.
you're easily distracted by lots of things, Doomkid.
Sliding corpses? Someone's not distracted
just
by
like
that.
flies in the room, or the smell of donuts, or just like
the smell of donuts. You're the police officer here, not me.
What?
Okay? Now I get distracted when I put down a can of soda and it puts one drop arcs like 3 feet up into the air, right into my eyeball.
Well, soda's carbonated.
How is that not going to distract me?
I remember what my question was now.
Blind and MtPain's playing like RuneScape in another window right now.
These 2000s references are great. I always wanted to play RuneScape. I never did. I think the time came and went for RuneScape for me. I would have played it as a 12-year-old, but
it never had much appeal to me. I don't know why. I between N64 and Doom itself, I just didn't have enough spare time for RuneScape.
Yeah, my experience with RuneScape was a friend of mine was like, "Oh, you should come play." Like, I started playing this game, and this was quite long into its life already. Like, we were already very late to it. But
it's still going.
I joined the game and I couldn't really find where he was, so I just followed some random person around, asking them over and over again where we were going, and then I got voice and chat banned immediately.
That sounds like the internet.
It sounds like it's the experience I would have had I tried it. That's why I just never bothered.
It's all just mining and killing the same monster over and over again for certain random drops. It's like a lot of games, but it had a real appeal back in like 2005. Kids would play it on like the school computer and stuff, and I was like, oh man, I like Dungeons and Dragons and that sort of thing, but I never had anybody to play it with, and it was like that was the sort of my inroads. My question was, by the way, getting back to Doom, we were talking about PWADs. Huh?
Doom.
Doom?
What's that?
Is that the game that was kind of like a shitty ripoff of Wolfenstein?
Yeah, it was a Wolfenstein
clone. No. I think it was a Duke Nukem mod.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I got my shit crossed up. So what were you gonna say, MtPain?
Nirvana, what I like about your podcast is you bring a lot of folks on who have a variety of influences, but they've also played very different stuff. Like you mentioned Skepland being an inspiration for Ribix, and you dug up Tourniquet's Altitude, which didn't have a Doom wiki page until I covered it for Sawed Off. But like that sort of stuff, I love that sort of stuff. I love finding like kind of WADs that don't get enough attention, but should deserve more attention. So do you think that there are like, maybe do you have a few WADs that you've played or encountered that you think like haven't gotten the attention they deserve?
I think Eden is the one, really. I think that was so good.
We need to put a screenshot up on the fucking video just to like make sure there's no confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll happily do that.
I'm trying to think if there are any others.
Eden's a great pick.
I'm not someone who, I feel like I'm not somebody who gets into like Doom esoteria all that much.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not super knowledgeable about like a wide breadth of WADs. Like obviously, relatively speaking, I played a ton of Doom and I played a ton of PWADs, but compared to someone like Doomkid who's really played like 10 times the amount of WADs that I've played, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a huge list of like PWADs under my belt that I think necessarily haven't garnered enough attention. I feel like I often do sort of steer towards a lot of the big ticket releases, but
okay.
Until I get into Xandronum and Ribix boots up like some random WAD he downloaded from like 7 years ago, that's like the worst thing you've ever played in your life, and then we play that.
That sounds like fun.
it's just my nature. I like to explore the old dusty back areas of the community and see what interesting gems I find. Although, of course, it doesn't mean I don't like to play the big ticket stuff. I certainly do.
No, you don't like to play the big ticket stuff. I think you kind of avoid
What?
that.
Kind of fucking lies and slander again from MtPain.
But you're
Mount Slander 27.
Well, okay, I'm gonna quote you. You like to, in your own words, open up new stuff, walk around the first level for 5 minutes, and then close it and never play it again.
That's Wilster. No. Wilster. I open it in Slade and look at all the maps, appreciate them, and then I don't even open it or play it at all.
Oh, that's.
Thank you very much.
I was gonna say.
I open it in Doom Builder and I just fly around and I'm like, yeah, I played that one.
Yeah. I'm glad it's not just me.
Oh man. See,
Wilster's the one who actually bothers to boot it and play for 5 minutes before then going, okay, I see, and then quitting. You're getting me mixed up with him.
The way I am, I won't even permit myself to look at the last map until I've made it there most of the time. Like that was actually
goodness.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking of one specific or two specific WADs. That's Sunder and Abandon. I feel like half of the reward of playing those WADs is getting to see the next map. Like, you know, what amazing, beautiful looking shit I'm going to be walking around in for the next 3 hours is like part of the fun. And I definitely didn't want to like quote spoil the ending for Abandon, which I actually did finish. That was quite an adventure. I'm currently
how was map 10 for you?
Oh my god. That was definitely the most painful one. Like holy shit. I thought the Lost Souls were going to be the worst part. They were bad, but that fight before that with the million archviles, just holy god.
Yeah. But I think if you downloaded the more recent version, I think it's nerfed a little bit too.
Oh, okay.
You just have less health, I think.
No, I use the. I'm saying I played the old version. I played the beta. So.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you had the full experience.
It was fun.
I
mean, it like I don't know. That's the kind of thing I have different tiers of stuff I play nowadays. There's like kind of pure fun relaxation WADs.
Different tiers. Like sometimes he gets really salty tears if it's too hard to beat.
I'm just constantly crying when I play Doom. I got to be really hydrated because I'm mostly just shedding tears all the time when I'm playing.
Sometimes it's a single poignant tear.
That's right. Anyway, we got a little sidetracked. Let's get back to actually interviewing Nirvana.
Let's get serious, okay?
If you want a spicy little tidbit,
I would
about Abandon. There's a universe in which I created a map for Abandon.
Oh man.
Ooh.
I hope you saved whatever you were working on and are gonna release it later.
Oh no, I didn't actually start it. I'm just.
Damn.
Benjo messaged me, and we were talking about Abandon. I think I was doing some testing or something very, very early. And he did mention if I wanted to make a map that I could, because I just released Breathless. And he was like, yeah, a giant map like that would kind of fit potentially in. And I was like, yeah, I could probably like come up with something, but I just made Breathless and I was really burnt out on making gigantic maps, so I ended up not doing it.
Well, just let me say on public record, I loved Abandon. I thought it was just phenomenal. I think it took all the things that old Sunder did right and did them right again, and writ larger, and I just thought it was phenomenal. Also, I do think of you, Benjo, and Bemused as kind of like a trio. And then Scotty, I think, jumped aboard a little bit later, but you guys are all in the same, like you're all in the same camp in my mind.
Well, if you mention Scotty, then you're getting into territory where you start to have to mention Joshy as well. But then we're like getting to the Plutonia / Slaughter crossover territory.
Where do Scotty and Joshy overlap?
They've worked on a number of projects together, haven't they?
Have they?
Maybe I'm wrong. I might be getting them mixed up.
I'm thinking when Joshy and Darkwave, Joshy does like Plutonia stuff. Scotty worked with AD79 on Cydonia.
Oh, he did. Okay. There's every chance I'm getting them mixed up.
Scotty might have worked on something Plutonia. Like he might be in Plutonia 3. I don't really know.
The real Plutonia 3.
I'm waiting with bated breath for Plutonia 3. I can't wait.
It's been out since 2017, man. It's real good. You should check it out.
Oh yeah, by the esteemed Silver Miner, the auteur.
Silver Miner, dude. I don't know what he's thinking. He mined straight up gold with that wad. You know what I mean?
Ah, boy, puns for the pun god.
I don't get the joke. It's a little over my head. A little clever.
It is. You'll get it when you're older. It's okay.
It's over your head because it's high, because that's Doomkid's
I'll call you
humor.
in 10 years.
It's high like Doomkid. Anyway.
Hello,
Oh, yeah.
Doomkid.
I like my standards for comedy. Okay.
Right. Right. Let's talk about
You
your...
have no room to talk, by the way, MtPain. You literally have no room. You're a mountain. Okay.
That's true. Let's talk about, you mentioned Breathless. That was your first like major release, right? That didn't come did that come before Entropy?
Yeah, it came before.
Do you want to kind of just walk us through? I mean, we can tackle this at any rate you like, but I'd like to hear about your mapping process, how you grew and evolved your style, your favorite stuff you made, like how long it took, your workflow, anything you want to talk about.
Well, Breathless was a bit of a mess, honestly, like process-wise, because I had really only very recently before that, like, started to delve into, like, Boom. I was still using GZ Doom, because I used controller, and the controller support for PR Boom was pretty bad. And it was good for GZ Doom, so I used that port for a long time. I think it was, like, post-Sunlust that I decided to change. Not only to mouse and keyboard, but to PR Boom Plus as a port. So initially when I made Breathless, a lot of my testing was like in GZ Doom and stuff, and the mapping was in GZ Doom, but I was targeting Boom because I didn't really like, I had seen Swim with the Whales and all these other WADs, and I wanted to make something that fit into that kind of ilk and design philosophy and stuff. So it was basically like this Boom WAD that I did this testing in GZ Doom, so there ended up being all these problems initially. Because GZ Doom and UDMF format and stuff, they kind of, they teach you some really bad habits.
Oh yeah?
Dude, wait. So you're saying GZ Doom Builder, or testing in GZ Doom as the port?
The port, yeah.
Yes, it absolutely does.
Well, one thing is that, like, you don't have to tag lifts and stuff. Things like that, so there was like a lot of problems where like I hadn't tagged a lift or
Oh jeez, yeah.
things like that, like in very initial testing. And then also I just wanted to make this gigantic map sort of like Swim with the Whales 3, and just building something that big as your first like major release is like it's really rough. I ended up having like a lot of bugs. I had this crazy teleporter bug, because I was really lazy with my TP closets, and I basically
Wait, did you say lazy with your TP closets? Like your toilet paper closets?
Teleport.
like my monster teleport closets.
Oh. I've never fucking. I've been mapping for fucking 20-something years, and I've never heard it called that before. So I got a new term today. Thank you.
I think you know what it is. It's from playing Dota 2. I think I just call teleports TPs because that's what everyone calls them.
You said trouble with your TP closets. I just thought back to when everyone was buying up all the toilet paper. It's like, no, my TP closet.
I'm actually 100 years old, and I call it a water closet. So that's where that comes from. But yeah, I had this problem where like the frame rate would actually like, it wouldn't just drop, you get this crazy jagged frame rate. The whole game would like chug in this insane way that like no one knew what the hell was going on, because like no one had ever seen this bug before.
Wow.
And Bermudez did a ton of testing and helped me figure out that it was the teleport closets, and basically I had a ton of zero tagged teleport lines.
Oh boy.
And I guess like even if there's zero tag, like I think it was checking every single sector with a zero tag.
Wow.
To teleport every time a monster was walking over a line.
That's painful.
Oh Jesus.
And it was just dumping the FPS rate in the toilet to bring it back to toilets.
Beautiful. Beautiful done.
It was a toilet, but not of the gods. It was just a toilet.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
I got my one
Breathless
win.
was really like a trial by fire, but it was a good experience in learning like how not to make a map and also like how to work with early feedback and like the testing process. And I remember I put it up on Doomworld and like Tourniquet is like a massive inspiration for me. Like Miasma is like, if we're talking about favorite WADs actually, Miasma is
Oh yeah.
I think Miasma is like as close to a perfect map as you can get, in my opinion. It does like pretty much everything right, and it's just
Hey.
incredibly put together.
It is awesome.
Miasma is actually a very cool WAD, but Dark Matter just said this is a shitty map, and now you know what? I mean, it's not. I don't think it's going to be winning any awards, but it seems perfectly serviceable to me. I think he was just sad that it was not doing very
Dark
well.
Matter isn't very good. Yeah, he seems new.
He's not new. He's been around for 15 years. I don't
Oh.
know why he said that.
So but he was playing pretty incompetently. Like he was just standing around, like trying to snipe. It's like he doesn't know how to play deathmatch.
Wow.
Maybe there's
Now that I've ruined Dark Matter's
It's not
career.
exactly
This
Oh,
just
no, I was
in,
gonna say-
MtPain is a flamer, apparently. We didn't know this before.
Just brutally attacking Dark Matter's character. Sometimes you just have to fill dead
Not
air
slander, I
in
don't
a podcast. I think this
You
is
know, you know what?
honestly, I think this is the first time I've ever referred to this like knowingly as a podcast. I was kind of I'm not a huge fan of podcasts as a medium because I think a lot of it is just like cuttable. I think, and also it's like one of those things where content creators who are known for another thing do a podcast, and like they can fill time in it and get like kind of just residual viewership from it. So I think it's a
Yeah,
little.
pretty much anyone who just like has a main YouTube channel, but then they do something like this as a side gig is a piece of scum and needs to die.
Well,
Yeah, right.
what I'm saying is it can be it's an exploitable it's a medium that's often exploited for rather lazy purposes. But like
I do know
I'm
what
gonna
you mean.
exploit the hell out of you right now.
It's
dude.
like Justin Timberlake's acting career, is what you're saying.
Except no one actually saw that.
Where they were like, hey, you are already famous. Let's just put you in big movies over people who can actually act.
he
Well,
tries.
that's what we're doing right now. We
was-
can't hold a podcast for shit, but goddamn if we're not gonna try.
When I think of Justin Timberlake's acting career, I think of his performance in Inside Llewyn Davis, that Coen Brothers movie. I thought he was pretty alright in that, actually. But that's a very favorable
What have I
view of him.
seen? I think I saw him in Social Network, obviously.
Oh, right. That's another one.
And
He just played himself.
I did not enjoy him being in the movie.
You mentioned Social Network, which had the score done by Trent Reznor, and the MIDI for this map is Terrible Lie by Trent Reznor. That's a very strange coincidence. I just had to mention it.
I'm sure that's why he mentioned it.
Yeah,
there's-
definitely.
Oh yeah.
You'll know
There's-
from my Quake video, my love for Trent Reznor goes deep.
Yeah, fuck, there's something I wanted to say earlier that you mentioned, when MtPain asked if you had anything that had done partially for Abandon, and you hadn't, but have you had any WAD, you know, it could be an episode or a megawatt or even a single map idea, and you had an idea and you thought it was a great idea, but you just didn't have the time or quite enough willpower to work on it? Because I have a few of those. I'm curious if you do.
Well, me and Mega Blast, who I mentioned a whole bunch. He, like, the two of us have this massive UDMF project that we have worked on, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like I always really hype this shit up whenever I talk about it, and Gazebo always gets really mad because he will never see this WAD, and he really wants to. But
Why won't? Oh well.
I mean, it would. The problem is it's really feature heavy. It does some stuff that I've never seen done in Doom. Like,
Oh wow.
It really insane. We did some really insane stuff for it.
Well, now you can add 2 more names to the list of folks who are excited to see it and need to see it.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
say
well.
that's a bold and exciting claim. So.
But yeah, we have that like in the back of our minds at all times, and I don't know. It has a lot of insane stuff. And then we do have an MBF21 project that we're working on currently, which That will see the light of day eventually.
That's you and Mega?
That's beyond just
Yeah.
the concept phase, though. You actually got work going on that.
Oh yeah, I got quite a few maps built and started and stuff.
Now, I want to clarify, because Christus on Doomworld, his custom title has been Mega Blast for about 20 years. They're not the same person, are they?
No. Mega Blast he used to be Mega Blast 98, but he is just Mega Blast. I believe,
Ah,
on Twitch.
okay. And he's not the same as Blast 98 without the Mega either, is he?
No, I don't know. He'll be very amused to find out that there are 50 Mega Blasts there.
Yeah,
Well, he'll...
there's Christus, who has like the customary title of Mega Blast, and then just Blast 98. He's got like, he's part of a line of clones, or that he didn't know, dooming automatons, or whatever they're called.
Yeah, no.
Nirvana, your
he did
friend
stream
is
for
an
a long time.
automaton. Doomkid thinks your friend is an automaton. That's on
He
the
is.
record
He's part of
now.
an assembly line of various blasts.
He's just
for
the
Doom.
latest model of Doom automatons.
Yeah, dude. Look, he's an upgrade from Blast 98. Okay, he's got the Mega. You know what I mean?
Right.
And there's no like,
They're both an
diluting the
upgrade.
waters with the other name of Christus. It's just
So they're
Mega
both an
Blast
up-
is
yeah.
the purest form so far.
96% pure.
Yeah. I do have another WAD that. God, I have a ton of ideas that have never come to any fruition.
Oh man.
And this one will never get made, so I can probably just say it. But I was gonna make a huge UDMF project, and it was gonna be themed around like Sekiro style, like that kind of ethereal ancient
yeah.
Japanese style. I wanted to
Oh,
do
that'd
stuff
be
with that.
rad.
I had a lot of ideas for that.
Japanese theming that's not just like a sort of Neo Tokyo thing would be awesome. I've seen a lot of like semi-cyberpunky Japanese stuff in Doom maps, but I haven't seen one of that sort of build. That would be very interesting.
Yeah, there is some. I can't remember their name, but they're working on. Is it just called Japan Doom? I can't remember.
Oh, really? That's a very creative name.
Okay, I'm probably making that up. Like I literally just made that up. I'm sure. But
I
I've
wish
seen.
it wasn't.
I've seen a lot of screenshots, and it looks really cool. But
I would love to play Japan Doom. I kind of hope it is real.
okay, I just had a shroud quality flick, and it didn't. The ping ate it. That's why.
Oh.
Oh,
That was actually pretty
yeah.
competitive.
Now MtPain, of course. I at this point I say it just to troll him, but I do really believe it. MtPain is actually a solid mapper himself, but I don't think he's been at it long enough to have ideas that were sitting on the back burner that eventually had to give way.
Oh no! All of my ideas are on the back burner. I told Doomkid the other day I wish that I could give him my inspiration, so that he could, I'll take some of his.
Well, you just
His-
take it all.
his-
Take
I'll take some of
my
his
mapping and
fatigue.
modding knowledge.
No, I'll take his fatigue away from him and give him my inspiration, and then he would be like a super mapper. 'Cause-
I'll just hand you all of my Doom stuff at this point.
No,
I've
telling.
I've served my time.
Yeah, but I don't know. My point is
But
that
yes,
I've got a shitload of ideas that I just don't think I need fluency in the editor. I need I have a natural familiarity with my film editing software. Like it's I don't even have to sit down and even think about what I'm doing. It just happens. I need that level of proficiency with the Doom editor before I can implement any of my ideas. Because I mean, I don't know. There's no standard for me. I sit down, I draw a couple of boxes, I make some shapes, and then I start adding monsters and texturing, and then there's too many things, it overwhelms me, and then I close it. The other day I just opened up the editor and I had kind of a neat little idea for a map that would take 10 minutes to finish, but would look cool. And I was like, I can just draw lines and see how it works out. And I got too depressed. In the midway through, it was like, this is, it's too much work. There's too many things going on. I can't possibly, I don't even have the brain capacity to decide if what I'm looking at is to my satisfaction or not. So I think I just need to spend more time with it and be patient. But alas, we have a limited amount of time on this earth, so.
well, that's it too. There's other things that you might want to invest that time into. But if you do decide to keep chipping away at Doom mapping through the thick and thin of it, it's natural. I mean, dude, I had the first 10 years. Now, granted, I was just a kid / teenager, didn't really know what I was doing. but the first 10 years of my WAD making is more or less like a write-off. So like, don't feel too bad when you've spent like an hour or two working on something. You go, ah, it's not where I like that fluency and that it comes with time and practice and familiarity. You know, it's you'll definitely find yourself able to make things more quickly that you have in your mind with time. And
Yeah.
like I'm on a different perspective. Of course, MtPain in the last few years, I think the last 2 years, I think it was, he finally got into actually laying down lines. Whereas Nirvana, of course, as we know, he was tinkering with Doomkid way back in the day, and I, of course, was doing my WAD author shenanigans. And I've built up quite a few concepts myself that I don't think I'll ever make just because there's not enough time in the day, or maybe they'll be years away. Swim with the Whales has been mentioned a lot, so it's what really reminded me of it. Is for over a year now, I've wanted to make a WAD that had very similar visual themes, but was much more accessible, and call it Wade with the Guppies. Like,
That's great, man.
and that
Well,
was, and then there was of course Memento Mini, which I actually talked about a couple times, but I just haven't gotten around to that either.
you should play Angler by Archie. It actually uses the Swim with the Whales palette.
Oh, nice.
Angler's a good name for it too.
It's just like a small little Swim with the Whales-y kind of map.
That's cool. I haven't even heard that one. I'll definitely have to check that one out.
Yeah, Archie's Rush is a classic of like kind of intro slaughter. Very approachable,
Yeah.
but also fun as hell. From what I've
Yeah,
played.
Rush is one I do know. That's how I know Archie, and yeah, good WAD.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of us sort of started being like, oh, people should play this WAD to get into Slaughter or whatever, and it's like almost meme tier now of people being like, you should play Rush as like your introduction to Slaughter or whatever.
Well, now people have
You know,
MSCP and to a lesser extent Haste as well. So
Accessible slaughter is such a fun genre, though. I mean, like I live in my own little world, but Ray Mohawk 2 is a fucking amazing one. I don't know, and it's not as hard as your average slaughter one, I would say.
I don't know if Haste is that accessible, really. I don't know. Is it?
Haste is harder for sure.
well, yeah, I meant like you kind of. I'm picturing somebody plays Rush, and then they play MSCP, and then they play Haste, and then they're kind of ready to play Sunder at that point. They're definitely ready to play Sunder at that point.
Haste is like the final of the learning stages slaughter wads. After you've conquered Haste, you're ready for the wild. Is what you're
Even
saying.
within Haste, it's kind of inconsistent because you have Nirvana's map 10 has that horrific platforming section, which is brutal in its own right, but the rest of the map isn't that bad. And then you got map 14 is just, or Athenium, which is Bemused, is just horrible. I think that's probably the hardest map in the set.
Bermuda submitted this SWAT originally for Haste. It was just like, I don't even know how to describe it unless you've played a lot of Bermuda stuff, but
I feel like I played a fair amount of his stuff now. Like,
Did you just call him amused? Maybe I misheard that.
No,
I swear
he said Bemused, or I
no,
said
Bemused.
Okay, I thought you said I've played a lot of amused stuff. I'm
Well-
like, it's the alternate universe version of amused.
Nirvana,
Yeah,
let me...
much happier guy.
The,
Makes really accessible content.
He has a strong Canadian
Amused.
accent.
Amused, bemused, C-mused, demused. No,
I'm being very
Map-
demused by this diversion.
Map 6 from Abandon, that the one that's all metal and poison with the ridiculous platforming sections. Like it's not that hard, but there's so many steps and you fall and you die. That's kind of what I associate with Bemused at his most like punishing. That's like if I'm trying to give you a reference point of like what I know of Bemused, so you can talk about the map he submitted to Haste.
Well, he makes this fight in like 20 of his WADs, where it's a bunch of cyber demons in cages on either side, and then like 6 trillion revenants and hell knights. And,
Yeah.
you know, maybe it did end up in Haste in a separate slot, or is it in?
That does not.
I can't
you know,
remember.
When
But,
I hear
I don't know. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Like there are a bunch of revenants on pillars in front of you that he added, which wasn't in the original version. But I don't know. It's just like you running from side to side with like 3,000 revenant rockets following you at all times.
He really does love that.
It did not end up in the final version of Haste.
Yeah, that's it's just too much for me. At that point, I'm like, well, I want to play this in multiplayer. I need more people shooting at these guys with me.
Yeah. Haste was a weird one though because it sort of started off as like Scotty wanted like kind of, I think it was described as like coffee breakish kind of maps.
Yeah.
Yeah, coffee break. That's a classic right there.
I don't know if he actually meant like the what. I think he just meant like
It's become
it
like
was meant to be
shorthand
like
for
very
5-minute
very
maps.
quick maps.
Yeah.
Yeah, very quick maps you could play that weren't too challenging. But then I don't know. We started to just get like a little bit weird.
Things started getting a little weird.
Well, that's how the best
Like,
stuff is created. You start with an idea, and it kind of goes through some transmutations. That's where it gets its character and
Yeah.
personality from.
I think yeah, Rubik submitted a map. It's up on his website now. Originally that was gonna be for Haste. It's like a map shaped like a cat.
Ah,
But it used his like patented insta death floors that function in Boom.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think we well, I would have left it in personally, but I think some people weren't sure about it or something, so we ended up making it a solo release.
Is that the one with the long title that has wolves in it, like thrown to the wolves or something? It's like,
Maybe I can't actually remember what it's called.
Hungry like the wolf. We were just listening to it earlier.
ah, yes, of course. Ouch.
There was, you actually just reminded me when you mentioned coffee break. It was yet another WAD concept I wanted to make. It was something that sat somewhere right in between, like fava beans and coffee break, and I wanted to call it Java beans. I thought it'd be a fun little like nod to both of them, but that's another one that's just, I don't know if it's ever, if I thought of that idea 6 years ago, I'd already be halfway through making it right now. Like,
This is some of my favorite stuff to hear about from fellow members of the Doom community, like, because like it gives me stuff to look forward to. I love that people still have stuff that they're planning to do. It's just it's a fun thing to think about.
I'll get back into my mapping zone someday and get back on it. And when I do, one of those 3 WADs will get made. Don't know which one, but one of them will.
Right now, my 2 most anticipated WADs are Plutonia 3 and Necromantic Thirst, which is the French Doom community's very, very long gestating project. They've been dropping hints that it's going to be coming eventually. Yugi Boy mentioned that he's got some big things coming in 2023, and Willu and Rufy and those folks have been a lot more active lately. So I'm desperately hoping for like the authoritative French Doom community Mega WAD, because 180 MPV was so good.
MtPain wants an authoritarian French Doomer to come and show
I
us
said
what's
authoritative, not authoritarian.
it's a fucking play on words, you silly goose.
Napoleon Doom.
Stalin Doom.
Yeah, no, that actually does sound super cool though. I've played the at least one of the 180 WADs, not in full, I don't think.
You mean
a lot of them.
the Toiselle d'Agonie WADs?
Oh yeah, 180 MPV.
180 MPV is 180 minutes per vive, but that's what do you call it?
That's only one of the episodes on the free ha.
No, it's like a spin-off, because like J.C. Dorn led those 3, the Toiselle d'Agonie series, and Willu, William Huber, led the 180 MPV. So it's like the same concept, but they put a little more time into it. And I think by 180 MPV, the whole like we're making these maps in 3 hours thing kind of died off, because all of those maps looked like they took longer than 3 hours to make.
Well, it's kind of like I always was under the impression that it was like 32 and 24. Where sure they get 32 map skeletons made in 24 hours, but then they spend lots of hours detailing them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty much. Let's not cut Nirvana out of this. I want to hear you were talking about haste development, that kind of stuff.
I didn't mean to. I thought maybe Nirvana would.
Oh no, I was just very focused on the frags.
Of course, that's the main attraction here, obviously.
Yeah. What? You guys just slaughter maps? Come on, step to this. No, I'm sorry. I'm just.
You have like a 20 ping advantage, so I'm calling shit. Getting down to server tick.
Well, and
Oh no, I'm in the floor. No.
he's definitely got
God damn it.
home. He's definitely got home field advantage too. He's played these maps 1,000 times.
Yeah, that is true.
Well, I'm in the floor now, so. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm out.
when people say, "Oh, I'm 6 feet under" in Doom, you know, they're usually just they're whining about dying too many times. In this
Yeah.
case, he's literally about 6 feet under the ground.
You would be the first person I've ever heard say that they were 6 feet under in Doom, by the way. I don't think anybody's ever said that before.
Hey, look, they have. You just haven't heard them. You gotta
No, it's a
listen.
classic saying. It's
Thank you.
classic.
It's everybody. People always coming up to me and saying, "Listen, I was playing your maps, Doomkid, and now I'm 6 feet under." I'm sorry, I'm done.
Donald Trump is not invited to our chat and Frag. I don't want to hear him here.
I
Cease
thought
and
this was
desist.
more generic, like New Yorker or something, you know? I didn't know what he was going for.
It was. I mean, it's
The only reason
any
I-
generic New Yorker talking himself up. Basically, it's not an uncommon thing after
Well,
all.
I've
Or like
just,
some really weak Sopranos character. Hey, Gabagool!
oh my
I
I
god.
was 6 feet under, playing Swim with the Whales.
Old flimsy Anthony
Oh!
over there.
He's gonna be swimming with the whales, you know what I mean, Tone?
That's actually,
It's every time I spawn in Z, I'm 6 feet under.
that's actually like apropos. It's like sleep with the fishes, swim with the whales.
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna be
I'm glad
swimming
you
with the
got
whale
it.
soon, buddy. We're gonna tie 2 big bricks to your feet.
Oh my god.
I don't know if they're that upfront about what they're gonna do.
No.
Oh man, this map layout, by the way,
That's pretty
really
good.
fun.
It's not.
Really fun for like 10 plus people, but for 4 it is just a.
A vacant
Well, you know,
lot.
one thing I will say. In a space this open, the SSG is only slightly dominant, rather than just always the best
I like
weapon.
getting the
So
rocket
it is
launcher and then just kind of turning and shooting back and forth and hoping my rockets connect. That's my strategy for this map.
a true blue spray and pray strat.
Yeah.
I have to like turn off my mapper's eye, I feel like, for like the 255 brightness everywhere. But
Yeah.
Oh, I literally wouldn't have even thought. I'm like, oh yeah, we're outside, so it's bright. That's as far as I think about it.
need some shadow work in here. Really-
Is the lighting lower in the building? I actually am so curious now. I have to check.
I haven't been in this. I didn't even know you could get in the building.
The building is like 192 or something. Just there
Perfect, dude.
technically is lighting in this map. Look, there's. Don't kill me! No, don't kill me! There's like the blue little light strip is actually slightly glowing. So
Yeah, I see.
And you can see it like under the door. There's a slightly lighter under the door frame. They didn't lower
this
the-
map
That's bad.
in only the most technical.
I want everyone
sense.
to know that MtPain violated the Geneva Convention by killing me. Just now.
I often do that. It's a really bad habit. I'm very sorry.
What, violated the Geneva Convention?
Yeah,
I
dude,
often
he's just,
violate the Geneva Convention. Yes.
I often slaughter millions with mustard gas.
I was
I
gonna
don't know if
say,
you
I
noticed,
immediately
I,
went to
um,
mustard gas.
I immediately, or not immediately, I always replace the med kit crosses with a heart in my wads to be Geneva Convention compliant. I don't know if you've noticed, MtPain hates the Geneva Convention so much, he actually modifies my wads to put the plus back in
You know,
before he makes
that's-
videos on them.
Crazy.
I haven't done that, but I should, because if that's actually the reason why you're putting the hearts over the crosses, then
It's not
you're
the
an idiot.
actual reason.
And I,
Well, hey, I will. If I'm an idiot, then why do I beat
He's an
you all
idiot
the
for
time?
respecting the Geneva Convention. Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying?
yeah.
I don't
So people
think
shouldn't respect the Geneva Convention.
This
it's about
started as a
protecting the
joke,
Red
but it
Cross
clearly-
brand. It's not even a Geneva
MtPain
Convention
fucking
thing,
hates
for
the
God's
Geneva-
sake.
Dude, I thought that we were joking when we said that you violated it daily. Now I realize that there's some deep-seated,
Yeah, he's actually pissed
illogical
about the
hatred for the Geneva
Geneva
Convention.
I've actually had a chip on my shoulder about the Geneva Convention for as long as I can remember. You guys
And I
are
can
the first
tell
to hear
the
about
sheer visceral reaction gives it away.
it.
I was always suspicious that maybe you hated the Geneva Convention. I could just
Nirvana
tell
had you pegged, dude. I didn't. I
from
was
your
normal
WAD
watching.
reviews. When
Yeah.
you talked about Alien Vendetta, there was something there. Geneva Convention related.
Yeah.
I couldn't put my finger on it at the time.
That's right. That's right.
You know, it's this is a diversion, but a funny one. there was
No,
very
Diversion from the Geneva Convention.
no, we're going even deeper into Geneva right now, and there was a very visceral and frankly, like, looking back, amusingly angry reaction to the little crosses being turned green rather than red for the console ports. People were like, "This isn't my fucking Doom. It's a piece of shit, a farce." And I'm like, "Oh my god, dude! They recolored a plus. I think you're gonna be okay."
I do remember people being mad about that.
I mean, I don't approve of the change because it's not necessary, except insofar as somebody is covering their bases liability-wise. But I would never make a post on Doom World expressing my outrage about it. You know what I mean? Like, there's a middle
There was
ground.
a full, like, 20-page thread with like 30,000 views of people debating the merits of the
Yeah, that's
plus
ridiculous.
on the medkit.
Because like it looks silly. Like that's my objection to it. It looks silly. But that's where it begins and ends. You know.
A green plus on a medkit is actually way more common than a red one, but that doesn't matter either. I agree that censoring a stupid little red pixel.
It's all-
Doomkid was in this thread arguing, by the way.
I'm sure he was.
He had
least
like
3 of
an
those
opinion
pages.
ready to go.
No, like, honestly though, it was really dumb. Like, why even bother changing? It's so minor.
Well, and you know what? You're totally right about the green plus sign. Is like in video games, there's much more like green health pickups than there are red health pickups. Green is like a universal like recovery color.
Halo though, big red plus.
Oh yeah.
That's true. The red plus caught on a lot, but there was a lot of green ones too. It is.
You know what they
Even
needed?
like,
instead of recoloring the cross, what they needed to do was just like slightly
Put a heart on it.
Well, no, well that works. But if you want to use green, just like kind of slightly redraw the medkit. It's not. It's one of the
I saw
smaller.
some fun.
Like I just need like a different association. That's all. Like,
Right, rather than being a very slightly modified version of the same sprite. You know, in Free Doom, they have some pretty fun variants on the medkit. Like,
I'm sure it looks
the
great.
sprite work is, yeah, they're really cool sprites actually. It's a case of we need to remove this red plus, but we're gonna do a creative way to do it rather than just going, slap a new thing on there and call it a day.
Right. Ooh.
And yeah, by the way, I cannot get on anyone for getting into overly minute debates or even just discussions on Doom World, because I've done that many times over like stuff as small as like that little brown pixel on the SSG on the left side.
What is your opinion
Somehow-
of the brown pixel on the SSG? Because some people will not play with that on anymore. Like they're just totally averse to it.
Damn it, MtPain, you're giving me another 20-page thread fuel already. But yeah, the people saying that they play with the Doom 2, they play WADs with the Doom 2 minor sprite fixing project enabled by default.
Yeah.
Kind of does trigger me a little, but I shut up. This is going to be the only time I whine about it. Because it's like, dude, if you load that in the wrong order at all, if you do anything wrong, you put a fucking toe out of place, you're going to destroy the dehacked and sprite replacement work of the custom WAD that you're playing with the minor sprite fixing project. Like,
Right.
leave it to things that are strictly maps. If something's even got any custom sprites at all, though, just suck it up and live with the goddamn brown pixel on the SSG.
That's
It would actually really fuck with pardon my French.
No, dude, please.
It would really mess with Fractured Worlds, because there's a bunch of sprite replacements in that are strictly there to make the palette function correctly. Because there are a bunch of
like
white
back to
pixels I had
70s.
to replace. Yeah.
Yeah, that would really ruin it. There would be a bunch of enemies with like rainbow palettes walking around.
I think it would give like the imps black teeth and spikes and stuff.
Oh, weird.
That would be pretty cool.
Well, it wouldn't be cool if it's unintentional, you know?
It looks horrible, trust me. It's really bad.
See, this is interesting because...
Hey, one man's horrible unintentional clown vomit is another man's CAC award winner.
I could have just made a joke there.
Wait, what? I didn't even hear you. What did you say?
I said I could have
I
made a
think you
joke,
cut
but it
out.
would be too mean. Because it's not accurate. I haven't played it, but we're talking about CAC award winners.
Whoa.
Clown vomit.
Oh wow. Okay, so MtPain's about to. So he's disparaged.
Go on, drop the bomb.
He's disparaged the Geneva Convention. What's the next MtPain? Go on, drop
All
the
right.
next.
Well, okay. I'll say it for the two people who might get a chuckle out of it, but it's not even.
I'll be one of them.
This is the most. This is the most uninformed take ever because I haven't played it at all. But speaking of Magenta Spire, because it's all It's all purple and colorful and weird,
Oh.
but like I haven't played it, and it actually looks pretty, like it looks rad, like so different. Like, see, this is why I didn't want to say it, because now I gotta backtrack. I like the lamp as a person. I respect. I more than respect. I think it's vital that we have folks who are making stuff that just
respect it, guys.
That kind heart of yours just it weighs so much in your heart, MtPain. For me, I would just be like, yeah, the lamp sucks and it's WAD shit. Next.
No, I didn't. Yeah, I don't think it's shit, but it does. You're talking about Clown Vomit winning CAC awards. I was like, Magenta Spire is bright purple and lots of weird shit going on.
It's actually quite a pretty looking WAD, and of course the lamp's a very
but
it's nice fella.
It is an acquired taste, because it's like I don't know, it takes Doom and puts it in a whole new frame of reference, colors wise, and new sprites and new monsters and things like that. So
I love it.
Anyway.
Take shit, recolor it, change its function.
Oh, you know what?
You're
Another great example of that would be, I guess this is a missed CAC award, but Toilet of the Gods, which I also played.
Oh yeah. Speaking of, we actually did mention it just earlier too.
Totally bizarre color palette
It's not
shift.
that bizarre in terms of textures.
Visuals and that, yeah.
Well,
I feel like
I'm thinking of.
it's not ordinary. That's for sure.
I'm
It's
thinking
not
of map
like,
4. I'm thinking of like you're totally in the dark except for pulsing, very like kind of uncanny greens and salmons and things like that.
certainly not
So
the
it's
norm.
the salmon that you can't deal with.
Well,
specifically.
it's the kind of like acid green and the salmon color. It's different. I wouldn't say it's definitely not Clown Vomit.
Man, I want really like I want a nice cut of salmon with like some green parsley on it. Now that you're talking
This
about
is what I was talking
Sounds
about
cool.
earlier about you being distracted by the smell of donuts. It's like the mention of food immediately distracts your.
Dude, you're talking about like there's
train of
this
thought.
dude. The map's great. It's like a perfectly grilled slice of salmon that's been salted to perfection. I'm like, how am I
man.
supposed to not think of that?
Oh, that's not really what I was talking about. We're talking about toilets, actually.
It's got this green parsley everywhere. It adds some flavor.
Oh man, I love Benjogami. I think Benjogami is an absolute genius, and I like Toilet of Gods destroyed me like on an emotional level, especially map 1 and map 4. But I loved it, every minute of it. I thought it was phenomenal.
Toilet of the Gods map 1 is definitely one of the hardest things you'll play, I think.
It's just crazy. But I mean, it's so intentional, so purposeful. I don't know. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I really like Bender's stuff because I don't know. I feel like you can always tell when it's a Bender what you just know.
Yep.
Which you can't say that about a lot of mappers. Like Time of Death is one. You can definitely tell when it's a Todd map.
Mhm.
Bender is another. I feel like I can tell Archie maps just. There's real like specific sensibilities to Russian Doom community texturing and stuff that you could usually tell. I feel like, but it's not super common, and Bender's stuff's really unique.
One mapper who, well, not one actually. There's a few mappers who do have some trademarks that I notice, even if their mapping's not necessarily turning the world upside down. There's a few, like I can usually get a feel for when I've been right in guessing that a map was made by Tarnsman when I wasn't sure. That's one example that I'd use.
Oh, nice.
I feel like he just structures things in a way that you can just see some trademarks coming through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not great at picking up on mappers' trademarks, but I do sometimes.
Well, you got Rubik's and Gazebo are pretty distinctive. Benjo's
for sure.
distinctive.
I get them mixed up solely because they're both distinctive, if that makes any sense.
Gazebo stuff is bigger, I think, is what gives it away. It's like more vaulting ceilings and stuff, whereas Rubik's is this he's a structural vocabulary that repeats through his maps.
They texture on different grid sizes, I feel like, because he was very 64 oriented, especially these days with the Eurotex. Like
Right.
32 to 64, and then I feel like Rubik's is generally within the 32 range, with some smaller detailing as well. But I mean, he's a lot more. What I really like about Rubik's is that he's very intentional with his line usage. He never uses more lines than he needs to, I feel like, and his detailing is just very well thought out and well put together. whereas a lot of people.
know-
Like Gazebo stuff is also very well thought out with a high line count, but some people have a high line count with less intentionality, I think, behind their usage.
This is gonna be more old man rants at cloud shit, but it's not. I mean, I don't mind. Obviously, I think non-vanilla formats are incredible, but there's one thing that bothers me about it, a side effect, I guess, that it builds. We're talking about how testing in GZ Doom, for example, builds bad habits into mappers. And having no limitations whatsoever builds a lot of bad habits into mappers as well. You're talking about Ribix making sure the lines are all used. They have a reason. They're not just superfluous lines. Superfluous lines seem to be a really common feature of more modern maps. This is why I say this is old man yelling at cloud type shit, but it's like, dude, optimize your fucking mapping a little bit. Like, Jesus, you've got so much spare overhang that just doesn't even need to be there in terms of like map and sector count, or line and sector count. It's not adding anything to the map, and making it run shittier. Anyway, sorry, I know it's a total diversion.
It's
But,
tough.
you know,
I think I definitely put in stuff like detailing that players would never even notice was there. I think, and I know that like a lot of other people, like a lot of other mappers do that too.
It's detailed. See, that's not. At least it's not just wasted. It's still doing something with it. I see a lot of just like that could just be deleted in like moments. But again, it might just be me. Like, you gotta get this thing to run on a 486 smoothly, man. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I do think also, like using the older editors, like you literally couldn't delete line defs in Doomkid without it crashing.
Wow.
So like you kind of had to be precise with the alliance, and you also couldn't just draw lines out in the void. Like you couldn't draw a single line def; it would crash. You had to draw like a sector
closed
if
sector.
you made a line. Yeah, it had to be a closed sector.
With all the faces facing inward too, but not outward. Because if they're facing outward, then you've got a weird like inverted sector. And from what I remember, that crashed it too.
I think Doomkid, if you were just purely drawing in void space, I think it automatically set them.
Oh, okay. So that is at least a little convenience.
But if you drew a sector within a sector, like let's say I wanted to make a pillar that was not a sector but had void space in the middle, you had to draw it counterclockwise.
Even if they automatically would flip the line defs for you for your actual void space sector, the fact that you had to consciously just draw. It just baffles me that you couldn't just draw it either way and then just flip them willy-nilly. Even Wadauthor had that, I mean, shit.
I mean, you could flip line defs, but it wouldn't become like if I drew that pillar, it wouldn't become a pillar when I flipped the lines or anything. And you couldn't just delete the sector to make it into a void.
God. It's like they intentionally made it as hard as possible to just make a column.
It was brutal, yeah. But you know, I think it definitely taught me patience. I'll say that much.
That's good. It's starting with something hard and then going easier is always a nice trajectory to take. It would be a shame if somehow every copy of Doom Builder got annihilated and people had to like go back. They would not know what to do. Like it would be.
Yeah.
It would be the apocalypse of the Doom community. Thankfully, something like that is likely to not happen.
I think MtPain got pretty quiet. I think he was off violating the Geneva Convention.
Yeah,
I was only not talking about what I don't know about. I'm just trying better to keep my mouth shut and be thought an idiot than open my mouth and remove all doubt.
Well, you know, maybe you're just a more thoughtful person than me. For me, it's like I will mouth off about any fucking subject. I might not know my ass from a hole in the ground. I will fucking pipe up on it.
Yeah.
Only if I could think something that's actually entertaining to say. Doesn't have to be true or based in fact or anything like that. As long as it's entertaining.
I'm just letting the adults talk. That's all.
You're letting the adults talk. How could you?
You got to stop with the assuming that I didn't. You've called us on that a bunch of times today. You're like, did you say amused? It's like I know I said bemused.
No,
I said adults.
Words. Adults sounds like adults, dude. It's just a.
Oh boy. Nirvana, you often ask people on your podcasts if they have any games that they play outside of Doom that influence their Doom mapping, and you've mentioned Dark Souls enough times for me to want to venture into Dark Souls. My brother-in-law plays Dark Souls, and he seemed very passionate about it. Maybe you could try to, one, talk about your non-Doom game design influences, and two, try to sell me on Dark Souls.
In terms of non-Doom influences, there are a lot. Like, I played quite a lot of games, and like a lot of Breathless environment was inspired by like Metroid Prime environments from those games.
It's a classic.
I feel like when I think of I just think about games and like break down aesthetic elements that I like. So when I say like, oh, it's inspired by this game, it might be like one object from one room in a game or something, you know, if it's just an aesthetic thing. Yeah. Dark Souls though is like, in terms of actual game design and level design, that's probably a much bigger influence. I think I didn't play Demon Souls,
so were you
saying
the biggest influence was in terms of design more so than visuals? Is that what you were saying?
But Dark Souls, yeah. I would love to make something that looked more like Dark Souls aesthetically, but
that would look so cool.
It would.
It's difficult to approximate the feel because I feel like a lot of it is like natural terrain, and it's also very specific in terms of its like palette and like how washed out a lot of the elements are and stuff. So you'd have to do a lot to make it kind of have that vibe. But
definitely need a dedicated play pal and texture pack.
Although I have to say,
sell Dark Souls.
Go ahead.
Oh, there you go.
I was just gonna mention that some of my favorite like Doom maps that do nature well are some of my favorites. I absolutely love when a WAD can do a not necessarily a convincing like verisimilitude nature, but like
it just feels nice to be in.
Well, like Lost Civilization does that, and it's just kind of beautiful. And Doom has a certain kind of crunchy way of rendering reality that I am deeply in love with. So, yeah, if you could do a Dark Souls, even a blend of Doom's ability to render outdoor areas and Dark Souls' actual look, that would be great.
Like a doomy, pixely facsimile of that visual style? Oh,
yeah.
That could be very cool, potentially. And you mentioned Sekiro earlier. That's the same developers, isn't it?
Yeah, FromSoft. Yeah, I think in terms of Dark Souls, there are a lot of elements to it that I really like. Like, obviously, the difficulty, which is kind of the generic answer about it, I suppose. I think that's what people would expect is like the biggest influence for me. But like the difficulty is obviously a big factor because overcoming challenge and stuff is always fun in games, and I think Dark Souls strikes like a pretty good balance for the most part of giving you kind of an old school kind of feeling in terms of death actually being punishing and like carrying some weight. While also allowing you to progress and become stronger and like overcome those challenges. So, you know, I think it takes like some modern sensibilities and combines them really well with like things that make old games sort of stand the test of time. But
you know, what you're mentioning here, Ron, is actually I have a friend who, or I guess we're not really friends anymore because he kind of went off the rails, but he loved Dark Souls a lot, and I liked watching him play because it was such a nice to look at game. And the controls and the attacks, for example, were all very slow but very deliberate and satisfying too. And I compared it in a sort of metaphorical way to the first Castlevania on NES. I'm like, the movement is slow but definitive and very satisfying when you get a successful strike on someone. And he just went like apoplectic, like, no, it's not similar, blah. It's like, dude, it's literally like slow, very satisfying gameplay that was known as being one of the hardest things of its generation, but ultra fun to overcome. Like, the comparison I'm making is not. See, what I'm ultimately leading to is Dark Souls is such a nice game that's so well designed, but some of the fans were so overly rabid for it for a while there. Not so much nowadays, that it kind of turned me away from it for a bit. Like, I also remember being told that like some of my WADs were like riffing off things in Dark Souls, and I'm like, no, dude. Not only did I make all this stuff before Dark Souls even came out, but all the stuff I played that influenced me also was made before Dark Souls came out. It was just like, it sucked. All these people were getting so fanboyish about it that I was like, ugh, you're making this good game have this annoying stink around it. I'm glad that we're finally getting out of that era, though, of every game being compared to Dark Souls. Because it doesn't do justice to a great game, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
It's not
do
really-
feel like the fan base is they're not great. Like I've never wanted to like stream a Dark Souls game because they're a very backseaty kind of community, and you have a lot of people who have just sunk like thousands of hours into Dark Souls, and they're like, well, this boss fight's really easy. You just like roll 7 times in this direction and then do a backflip, and then, you know.
They know the exact set of moves they need to do to beat it. So because
Yeah.
you're not quite as far along as they are, it's like, dude, what are you doing? I hate that kind of shit so much.
Well, it's a weird thing as well to get sort of braggadocious about, because I feel like Dark Souls and FromSoftware games, they are challenging, obviously, but the skill, a lot of it is pattern learning. So if you've played the game a lot, you've learned the patterns. So, like, you will just get very good at the fights just by playing it a lot, kind of thing. It's not really a it's not like CS:GO or something where there's like
It's like it has the sort of spontaneous element to it. Like I literally, they could potentially attack me in a way that I'm not able to foresee. There's no pattern if.
exactly.
Yeah, right.
Well, I mean,
So
in the Dark Souls community's defense, Doom's is an extremely pattern-heavy game. You can throw different combinations of monsters at players, but they're gonna behave exactly the same way. And they're extraordinarily primitive. So I mean, it's not necessarily like we're not trying to dunk on the Dark Souls community either, I presume.
Oh no. The
Especially,
community. Oh sure, I'll dunk on them all the time. The game though itself, no. God,
well,
the
and
game
like
is
I don't know, I'm
actually-
just talking about the skill cap is what I meant. You know what I meant? Yeah.
well, I think I don't know. I would say that it does have a capping point where, you know, it's like, because it's like, you know, you go through and you fight these same enemies and bosses. For the most part, you can go through and have a pretty similar experience,
Yeah.
like multiple times, I guess. With most of the variants coming from like builds and weapons and that you use and things like that. But
Yeah. Oh, that's true. That's true. You can prep differently for different fights. Suddenly we have 7 players.
I guess all of this is a bit of an aside, really.
That's okay. I mean, you know, I'm happy to have a Dark Souls. Yeah, Doom's okay. Doom's gonna be fine. We've talked about Doom enough. We can talk about Dark Souls for 10 minutes.
In terms of like influence, though, I think like the biggest thing was just the environmental storytelling in those games.
Right.
The way that like different monsters are in different areas, and like it feels like they have these natural environments that they're in. All the locations, there's like a lot of variance in the locations as well in DS1. Like
Yeah.
it's like forests and castles and stuff, and they all exist within the same world, but I feel like the developers were willing to kind of shake up the design a decent amount, which I really like. Like Fractured Worlds is like a lot of different thematic things, because I get kind of bored when I play a WAD and it's like the same sort of theme over and over again. I really like it when there's like a lot of theme shifting.
That's actually, you transitioned for me. I was just going to ask you about Fractured Worlds, because one of the best things about it is how immersive and fully fleshed out these places are, yet I can't really put my finger on like where we are. Like, what is this place in most of these areas? It's a blend of, I think it feels interstellar, but it also feels magical, and there's the kind of the motif.
Which one was this for? Sorry, MtPain?
This is Fractured Worlds.
Or Fractured World? Okay.
There's like there's the cherry blossoms kind of bursting in, and there's the map 6 is kind of overcome with you know, the fleshy demon growth, and there's spaceships and technology, and I mean Gazebo's map is this ridiculous kaleidoscopic pulsing hyperdrive thing. I was wondering if you're talking about environmental storytelling. I'd like to hear from the creator of Fractured Worlds what kind of I don't need like canon necessarily, but like what kind of mood were you going for? What kind of what kind of inspirations did you draw from for that, and what are these places supposed to be?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure. I guess they're not necessarily supposed to be anything in particular. I think overall, like conceptually, it was just like the creation of abstract spaces that somewhat flowed together, I suppose. A lot of it was just sort of done through like texture theming and having sort of motifs and stuff that repeated throughout, so that there was some semblance of connection throughout the maps without them having to all follow the exact same texture theme.
Avoiding feeling samey, but still giving a connection. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. I actually ended up, like, as I added more, because like I would get to a different map and I'd be like, I want to go through this theme, or like I'd have a concept for a theme that I wanted for the map, and I might add like more textures to the resource pack, and then I would go back into previous levels and I would add some of those textures throughout the older maps, so that there was like reference points and like motifs established early on that would then tie the maps together visually, I suppose.
I'm sure that's true, but like I guess I don't fully buy that there's no lore connecting these things, because you end Entropy and Fractured Worlds with like an incredibly uncanny, unnerving like eyeball or collection of eyeballs staring at you. Like, is that you're telling me that's just supposed to be an ominous, like, you know, lead out with no story, with no extra thought behind it, or what?
Or is it just like, this looks fucking badass?
Well, I guess like the overarching elements, I guess, are like the concept of like something bigger than you, like some kind of evil presence, I guess. I like the vagueness of just like a presence, I suppose, like something.
I love Lovecraftian umbral evil.
Can I? Nirvana, your answer that you just gave reminded me of something that I found really amusing that MtPain and I spoke about months ago.
Sorry, did you say bemusing?
Yeah. Something that was extremely bemusing that we talked about a while ago was a BPRD. His maps seem to have a clear. They're not overtly connected necessarily, but there's
they're
that,
overtly
like,
connected.
Starry,
Not story references.
There's a story. There's like this sort of like starry, thing in all of the maps. It's like the starry energy that's draining away. It reminded me. Your answer kind of reminded me of if we managed to get BPRD as a guest. And MtPain was like, so, can you tell me about the overarching story? And he was just like, oh no, I just thought it looked cool. It would just be hilariously like.
Oh, that happens a lot, yeah. I feel like that happens a lot with
we built up all this lore about why, and especially MtPain has, and then just he's like, oh no, I just liked it. It's just a hilariously sort of.
Yeah.
It always cracks me up. You know what I mean?
It's hilarious to discover that the people who create stuff that you like and derive a lot of meaning from actually didn't put any meaning into it at all. That's a great feeling. To discover that the art that you invest time in is just this nihilistic. Well, it looked all right.
It's amusing.
We have to learn that we have to make our own meaning in the world, and we can't be beholden to anybody else in that regard. That makes me feel real comfortable.
You actually just turned. I mean, you know what? You were joking, but you actually just turned it into something that is a genuinely comforting thought to me. Like, yeah, you make your own meaning of the Doom world and the real world.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta get Nietzschean about it,
Yeah.
Well,
you have to become the Übermensch.
Yeah. Well, okay, I wasn't joking, actually, and the BPRD example is more where I took offense, because if he were to say, well, it doesn't really matter why I made it, like, that would be true. It doesn't really, like, what the meaning you took from it is what matters. That would be true, but I think I don't know that this is the place to discuss
I
this.
diverted my. I got
Well,
way too philosophical on this.
I mean, if it's comforting in any way, like there is, like there are definitely overarching like conceptual elements through the things that I made, and I mean there are some very like personal things that I mean I won't ever talk about with Fractured Worlds.
Yeah, sure.
Just some big sort of not entirely positive life events occurred during the making of that wood, but like
Yeah.
and there's sort of some stuff in the wood to do with that, but like the conceptual stuff. I mean, the eye that you see at the very end
Yeah.
of the WOD, that is from a game called Breath of Fire 2, which is like one of my favorite games of all time.
Breath of Fire 2, you said?
Yeah, Breath of Fire 2. It's a JRPG for the Super Nintendo.
My brother fucking played the first Breath of Fire a shitload when I was a kid. That just was. I haven't heard anyone mention that in so many years.
Yeah, great games. But yeah, really, that game has like this, it's like kind of an interesting darker story to it, which was kind of unique. I felt like, for like the usually kind of sunny JRPGs back in the day. Yeah, I guess like that feeling of creeping darkness, which is sort of relayed in the like little story things that I wrote up for the wood, is definitely part of it. And presence in the background, a lack of control, I suppose, because you end up in this space at the end. And I suppose like the loneliness too, but then also there's hope, I suppose. That's kind of the point of the little. I suppose
We're
a lot of
peeling
people
back
have.
so many previously unmentioned layers of meaning now. See, I know
Well,
it always
that's-
ends up playing out like
Well, and that's
that.
what I
love
meant. That's what I mean. Like, what I was stumbling and bumbling around earlier was like
it. You weren't bumbling.
Let me stop playing for a second so that I can actually frame my thoughts coherently. I fancy myself a creator. I would really like to do more writing and more, fiction and more just whatever comes out of me. I'd like to share it. And I think that it's kind of the responsibility of people who feel creatively inclined to share their stuff, because it helps people navigate their existences. It provides comfort or entertainment or just anything. It's just sharing human creativity is pretty much, I think, my personal reason for being here. Like, I don't think life has a whole lot of purpose unless we can share, what we're getting out of this whole thing. So it for me is a little bit depressing on a philosophical level when somebody who, like, if BPRD were to just have no reason behind why he made what he made, it just came out and it has no meaning to him, then I'd be very disappointed. That's why I wanted to talk about it in like these more esoteric terms, because like that matters to me on some level, and I love picking the brains of folks who are creative.
So this is a yeah, okay, sorry, he just distracted me by saying the server needs. I was looking at it from a different angle. Now, obviously, I was just making a joke when I said BPRD having no meaning. It would just be funny for us to have developed all of this lore, and then
I heard what you meant. Like, I got that.
But then at the same time, there's a thing. A lot of creatives. Now, I'm a creative too. Right? All three of us are, whether or not we want to admit. But a lot of them do this thing. Now, it sounds like neither of you do this. From the descriptions Nirvana gave, certainly it was just things that were almost subtly or metaphorically layered into the work, not explicitly. You know what I mean? And it always bothers me when a creative person creates something and then they tell you that your interpretation of it is either wrong or flawed somehow. And so I avoid that by making the interpretation intentionally on the vague side. I don't want to bake anything too explicit into it, because then it's like, I wouldn't want anyone to think, oh, I'm interpreting this art the wrong way or something.
That's a good point.
And that's kind of the other side of the coin. I didn't mean to take the wind out of your sails. So to speak.
Now we're getting into the whole death of the author concept, where it's past a certain point in academia, the concept of it doesn't matter what the author meant; it only matters how we interpret his or her meaning. I'm not fully behind that as a concept, but I am behind whatever you want to think a thing means is what it means to you, and that really no one can take that away from you. That's physically impossible. So
I am very okay with an author being like, that is not what this means.
yeah,
actually.
exactly.
I have no problem with like an explicit meaning that they had for their own work, because I think.
No, wait, are we talking about books and movies, or are we talking about Doomwads here? Because this is two different pieces
Well,
of
we're
pie.
having a. I feel like we just have.
I was talking broadly. Yeah, not
Like,
about Doom.
If someone were to write, if I'm writing a thing that clearly shows, let's say there's some moral in it that is inherently crucial to the conclusion or arc of the story, it is a little less, to me, that's like more fundamentally important to the work than someone making a Doomwad and they're like, oh, they were supposed to pick up on this underlying theme and they didn't, they just shot demons the whole time. Like,
Well, there's definitely.
movies and
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh
I
yeah, I
just
don't
say
think
that-
I would get to.
like if
I feel like
someone-
with Doom, I'm definitely I'm not expecting any meaning whatsoever when I play Doom. For sure.
Right, nor am I. That's why it's so
Yeah,
unusual when
yeah.
it does come around. You know.
You know what though? I mean, even then, like, because then we get into more minute details. Like, hell, there actually is a ton of value in "quote unquote" meaningless turning off of the brain and just fragging some imps sometimes. So
Oh yeah.
it's it comes one day what is meaningless on the next day, depending on my mood, is what makes me feel better. That's a good thing about having art forms like Doom maps, where the meaning or intention isn't necessarily explicit or a core part of the work, because people can enjoy it in ways they weren't necessarily quote unquote meant to. Whereas a story with a very obvious moral or something that it's trying to express, it's like kind of either resonates with you or it doesn't. You know, it's there's less wiggle room. I feel like for the enjoyer of the content.
I think I see what you mean. I guess the reason why I asked this question in general was because you boot up Fractured Worlds, and that music kicks in. It's honestly, I'm glad I get the chance to tell you this in person, but I think it's one of the best picks for Map 1 music ever. So urgent, so exciting, and so just like it instantaneously sets a mood. It's very simple, but it instantaneously sets a mood. And then you get into it, and you go through the map, but it concludes with that void fight at the end, which is just super aesthetic and just gripping. And I don't know, like to me, like you can enjoy that as a gaming experience 100%. Like I know I did. But you can also enjoy it as like I'm being transported to a fractured world. I mean, that's what's so magical to me about Doom, is it's abstract enough to take you somewhere alien, but simple enough for people to make, their visions of, wherever they want to take you with relatively simple tools to use.
Well, I mean, this comes back to Dark Souls in a lot of ways, because that game is also, you can play that whole game and experience pretty much zero story. Like, all the story you get in that game up front is just intro cutscenes for the bosses, with no dialogue or anything. You just see the boss, and then you fight the boss. And if you want story, you have to, like, you experience it through the environment, you experience it by being in the world, and, like, through little item descriptions, like you'll read the text in the item descriptions. That's where most of the extra lore comes from, in fact, is just the descriptions of items in the game.
Yeah.
Which a lot of them were written by Miyazaki himself, which is really interesting to me.
Oh wow.
And so Doom is a lot the same way, like you said, I think. Like, at least in terms of people who are actually attempting to, put something a little more behind their Doom Wad or whatever.
Yeah, look, I can't even talk about that, because with, like, for
Yeah, you
example,
can.
Rainbow, like, it's not, well, I would say I can't talk from a place of judgment for something that I've done myself. I put it's not, it's not beating you over the head with it, but there's like a little bit of an environmentalist message in Ray Mohawk, for example. But like, I like it to be in a way where if you pick up on it and you like it, that's cool. But even if you don't pick up on it, you could still just like it anyway. Which Doom provides a good platform for that kind of entertainment too, where you can bake a meaning into it, and even if missed, they still get a great experience. I really like that. It's not like there's just so many different ways to enjoy it, not just physically, but from like points of view. I really like that about it.
Well, Doomkid, I think like you do that. Like all of your WADs have a sense of place, a sense of some kind of underpinning or overt story. I mean, both the Rowdy Rudies and Ray Mohawk, Ray Mohawks have an actual story, but you do environmental storytelling as well, and you do, you're immersing the player in some kind of experience. You're giving them the experience of tromping along the beach, or raiding some kind of chemical plant, and then, the further into the WAD you get, the more and more polluted it is, or whatever. Your friends who helped you with the community project, brought ancient ruins and all kinds of extra shit into the Ray Mohawk world. So like that's exactly what I mean. You built a Ray Mohawk world and a Rowdy Rudy world, and we all built a Jamal world. And I think that's the magic of Doom, is you can create these little worlds that are you can just walk around in them and shoot imps, or you can kind of like let them get under your skin, which I think is a thing that Doom maps you have a unique power to do, to get under your skin.
It is. It's such a great, like, even as a kid playing it and knowing that it was a really fun game to make levels for. It's not until you get a little older and you think about it, you're like, it's actually a great artistic platform in multiple perspectives. Because obviously, when we think of great Doom WADs, the first thing that comes to mind are like Doom gameplay experiences where it's shooting shit that's fun. But there have been a lot of Doom mappers and modders over the years who weren't really even mappers. They were just creating little like pieces of art using Doom as their canvas. It was less about playing it, more about just like, look at this cool thing that I've made. For example, there was a very, very early example of this. There wasn't so much in the way of level design. It was a WAD called truck.wad, and it was just showing like it had a really high frame rate little animated film playing on one of the screens, and it had a really detailed truck. It was less about making a cool map and being like, look at these cool little pieces of art I've created for you to look at. You know what I mean? And it's just it's such a multifaceted canvas. I really do. I really do love that about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a big fan of people being like earnest with their mapping and any creative pursuit. I get a little exhausted by people who are like, I don't know, they'll make something that looks and plays incredibly well, and then they'll just call it like pp.wad or something,
I do hate that kind of shit.
Like, call it whatever you want. I don't actually begrudge people, really, but for me, it's like, immediately I'm just taken out of it, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know what? This is gonna sound this is an oversaid thing in this era anyway, but it reminds me of some cheap throwaway Rick and Morty type joke or something, where it's like, we were irreverent for the sake of it, guys. Ain't that funny? It's like, not really.
Yeah, that's irony, basically. We're infected with culturally, a compulsion to be ironic in self-defense. It's pretty corrosive, but I mean, it's explainable. I mean, it's people don't want to be vulnerable. It's hard to be vulnerable, for God's sake, especially when you made something and want to share it with people.
Like, they put their soul into this wall, but they call it haha pee butthole, because if someone says it's not great, they'll be like, well, I called it haha pee butthole, what were you expecting? It's kind of like having your cake and eating it too, but maybe I'm overthinking it at this point.
We most certainly are.
Yeah, I guess for me, I spent like, I think it took me months and months to come up with the names for the maps
in my word. And, people will be like, well, these map names are terrible or whatever, which, whatever, that's fine. But it's more about the the process of like actually caring about it, I guess.
Yeah, you got to get it right. You don't want it to not be right.
Make them fit to the themes that I came up with and stuff like that, which isn't to say I don't like, like joke WADs are bad, or not making serious maps is bad. It's more when someone is genuinely serious about what they're making, but they're not willing to follow through on telling other people that they're serious about what they're making.
Right.
That's what I'm talking
They're
about.
They're trying to intentionally present it in this sort of aloof, jokey way, even though
they're pretending they don't care, yeah. When they actually do.
I think that definitely is part of the sort of cynical, irony-laden culture, for sure. Just, it's like, dude, just say I put my heart and soul into this, and just be done with it. There's no shame in that, Like
I'll intercede on those folks' behalf. That's really hard to do. It's because especially if you you do genuinely care about what you made. Like, I'm kind of compulsively earnest. I don't even take credit for it. It's not something I practiced. It's just, I can't really lie, and I don't know. I have a hard time doing anything insincerely, because, like, you can tell. I guess maybe that's part of it. Maybe I'm just bad at it.
But you don't want to do it either. It's by
well,
the sounds of it.
It's hard to say. I mean, I don't think most people want to be insincere. You know, I think it's.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
There's a great quote from. I just saw The Whale the other day, and there's a phenomenal quote from that. The guy says, "Do you ever get the feeling that people are incapable of not caring?" And that just, I keep thinking about that, because it's. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
like
think that
even people who are presenting themselves as
yeah,
above caring,
it's just. I mean,
care.
I don't know. You have to be kind of afflicted with outright sociopathy to not care or be totally deadened to the world. So I don't know. I guess my point is that it's hard to show your stuff to people, and I actually can't think of any examples of maps that clearly look worked on and given a lot of love, but were treated flippantly by their authors. I don't think I've run into that.
I will jokingly say that I've never made a good map before, but I don't think that's true. I think I've made at least like 3, maybe.
Yeah.
This is a little joke. Very little joke.
Lol. It was
Smallest 3 maps.
It was so subtle that none of us laughed.
You can't get, you can't talk about your Doom maps without being self-deprecating at some point. I feel like.
I mean, because
Right.
well, you know, on the other side of it, it's like actually everything I've made was well thought out and great. And it's like, dude, you high on your own farts. It's like,
Right.
I mean, when I look back on Breathless, there's a lot of stuff that I would change. And I mean, I made Breathless HD 4K remaster or whatever the hell I called it.
that's a funny name.
That's really funny.
That was to fix like a lot of really glaring issues, mostly for speedrunning purposes, because that map was like unspeedrunnable because there was some really bad teleport problems and stuff. But even Entropy now, when I look at it, I would change a lot of things about Entropy. So
As you know, I thought
think it
Entropy
happens.
was great.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna be like I think it's shit. Like
Wow.
there's still some stuff that I like about it, but I think
Man.
overall like my sensibilities have just changed a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
I just love taking quotes like when a WAD has a name that has inherent meaning as a term. And someone saying like, for example, like, oh man, I love rampant death. It's just I'm a huge fan of rampant death. It's like it just sounds funny in a vacuum. I always love shit like that with Doom WAD titles. Yeah, man, I love let's see, just insert some like horrible title.
Genocide?
Here, like, what was that?
Genocide?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of genocide.
Yeah, haha. Ha ha ha. Very funny.
Dude, if someone says that, I mean, for me, I can't not be amused. It's like, yeah, I know what you
Doomkid's
meant, but
laughing
it just sounds so fucking horrible.
Sorry, did you
Genocide.
say bemused?
I can't help but be bemused, and I am actually quite bemused by MtPain's reaction. He said a perfectly valid joke, and he does this fake haha shit. Now I am bemused.
Ha 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 ha.
I'm gonna slap you up, MtPain.
I'd love to see
You
you
know it's
try
true.
from Australia. We got
know
so
it's
far
true.
through my list of questions. I'm so glad. We have 15 minutes left because Nirvana has to go. Honestly, I feel like there's enough here to do a part 2 of this at some point. It's been really great having you on, man. I've enjoyed our conversation. If you're game, we could do this again sometime. Like, probably in 6 months or something, because we do these once every several
months.
cycles of the moon.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I thought it was
Yeah.
shit, and I had a terrible time personally. I'm kidding.
that's
I had
the
a great time clipping into the floor.
that's
It's the
Doomkid's
highlight for me.
and both of you are infested with irony. You need to get that out of your system and adopt the
Dude,
new
dude.
sincerity.
No, saying stuff sarcastically is not the same stuff as saying things ironically. That's a subtle but very fucking important distinction.
You're right.
Technically, definition-wise, sarcasm is just irony there.
Yeah, but we were talking about in how it's applied if I say the opposite of how I feel in a joking tone, that's different than me being like,
Well, wait, no, that's
I
not.
don't take
Now that I
anything
think about it, that is
seriously.
just you're just being ironic. The ironic contrast of what you mean versus what you're
Well,
saying.
then I turn back. This idea of defeating irony in modern culture sucks balls, and I don't like it. Then, if that's what it means.
Alrighty. Well, you are a child of the '90s. I mean, and you love '90s culture, and the '90s was as ironic as a decade
But
as
there's
it's ever
different.
been.
If I ironically say, "Oh, this sucked," when wink,
Wasn't
wink,
there?
actually,
I don't know. I feel like the '90s was very like. It was about sincerity, really.
It was the
Well,
early 2000s where the
no,
irony
I'm thinking
shit
of
really came.
Seinfeld was kind of supremely ironic, but like jokey, not like harmful, but like.
I don't
it-
think Seinfeld would be. I wouldn't
It's
say
not
it's like built
sincere.
around irony.
I
It's
would
built
say
around,
there's a lot of it's a probably like in terms of storylines per episode to episode, it's like a 50-50 mix of sincerity and irony slash
Well,
joking.
but I
It's
mean,
like,
the Seinfeld versus The Office, like what's more sincere? It's like no contest.
I haven't watched The Office that much. so I
Okay,
don't know.
well, I don't know. I'm not sure what you mean by sincere in this context, I suppose.
Well,
I
kind
would
of like
say that
I don't know, like uplifting endings, and like I mean, most of it is just kind of like chuckling at someone's expense. Like maybe that's what I mean. Like when it's laughing at someone's, laughter bought at someone's expense, versus.
Now that's a whole different story because I can be a sarcastic motherfucker, but unless the person is a real asshole and deserves it, I don't like laughing at other person's expense. That's a whole different kettle of fish for me.
I mean, I prepared for a podcast where we're talking about Doom, not about irony in media. So maybe next time. Maybe
I feel
next
like
time.
as an English major, like the discussion of the definition of irony is like one of those big memes.
Yeah.
Really, at this point.
It's definitely this
Start
is-
talking about that Alanis Morissette song, and it's all downhill from there.
Oh no, don't bring it up. No.
It's like rain.
Coincidence is not irony.
On your wedding day.
Yeah,
Which
coincidence
isn't
is fully
strictly
irony.
a definition of irony.
Not at all. I don't think Alanis Morissette knew what irony was.
And then there's like dramatic irony, which is different again.
Nirvana, have you listened to the song "Word Crimes" by Weird Al? MtPain would probably.
I
like it,
haven't.
too.
No.
It's
I'm not.
very
I'm not a
funny.
big Weird Al guy. It's too ironic for me.
Oh my god.
I have not heard that
that
song,
was actually
Doomkid.
great.
Word crimes.
It's very good. It mentions the Alanis Morissette song very briefly.
Oh, nice. I'm gonna ask this question now so that we can stop on time. I know it's gonna take about 12 minutes to answer this question, but Nirvana, you always wrap up your podcasts with the same question, and I'm gonna ask you now because I have to know, but I'm also 99% sure I do know what you're gonna say. So, what is your favorite?
What's your favorite Duke Nukem?
Doom monster.
Oh, sorry.
Shut the fuck
the pig,
up.
The pig guys. It's the pig guys.
What is your favorite Doom monster and why?
I don't think anyone's gonna be surprised by the answer, but Cyber Demon is
Yep.
my favorite.
That is what I thought.
That's a cool answer. That's a cool answer.
Which
That's certainly a better answer than Archfiler Revenant.
I feel like the meme with Fractured Worlds these days is that all the major fights are just Cyber Demon Hell Knight extravaganzas, which is definitely true. But
Well,
I don't know. The Cyber Demon is a lot more nuanced, I think, than it appears like on paper when you get into like slaughter stuff anyway, because it introduces like infighting as a major element to like being able to succeed, which I've always found like a really interesting concept. It's like one of the things I love about Doom is it's like the infighting.
Oh yeah, such a defining part of the gameplay loop of Doom.
And they're also surprisingly fun to fight for a high HP monster, and that's almost entirely because of two-shotting. If you couldn't two-shot Cyber Demons, I don't think I would like them half as much.
Yeah, right. There is a way to
but
get
I
really
think-
good at killing them.
Yeah. I think that particular loop of two-shotting Cyber Demons is like some of the most satisfying gameplay you can have in Doom, which is maybe why I like Todd maps. But
Maybe I'm too aesthetics driven, but the Cyber Demon is one of my favorite demons just because he's big, he's badass, and in terms of functionality, I can't reliably two-shot him. I mean, I have two-shotted Cyber Demons before, but it happens once every like 5 or 6 times, not reliably. You know what I mean? And I just like their design. They're imposing. They're big. I still think, masterminds and chain gunners, just due to their sheer range, can be very devastating. But to me, a cyber demon's still pretty much the scariest enemy to encounter. Like when I see a cyber demon, I always have a oh shit, like no matter how many years go by. Archvile, I kind of have a, depending, it can be like a ooh, or it can be an eye roll. But with the cyber demon, it's always kind of, he never stopped having that big boss man vibe. You know what I mean? He's the king of doom. Like,
well, he can kill you
I
from
think aesthetics
100 health,
too.
100 armor. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
what would you say about that? I didn't. I think there was a little bit of crossed wires just then.
Well, no, the cyber demon. I mean, you meet him and he throws rockets at you, and that's a max damage of like 200 and something. You're only safe at 200, and even then, if he hits you, it's a bright red screen, and you're kind of flying blind
You're
for a while,
fucked.
and then you're dead. Cyber demons are actually still for me my least favorite. I think they're my least favorite monster, but like it's still like in an adversarial way. Like I don't dislike the cyber demon as an idea, but I find myself never having. I still have not mastered fighting cyber demons. Like I feel like I've more or less mastered fighting archviles and every other enemy. Well, maybe not revenants. Especially in large groups. But cyber demons just always
You're just gonna go to.
get the better of me.
There's a Todd map where there are 100 cyber demons, right? And you just two-shot them over and over. That's
Wow,
your
we-
Seems
training.
like good.
We
Seems like
beat
good
the
practice.
entire Megawad, you guys. Just as an aside.
That's
We-
awesome.
Oh
we-
wow. We did
So
it.
I guess we'll wrap up in a sec. Perfect timing, actually.
Yeah,
kind
that
of,
is
for
that is excellent timing.
But I do want to mention with the cyber demon. I'm surprised MtPain isn't a huge fan. I know you weren't saying like you hate the enemy or something, but I'm just surprised.
Well, I said they were my least favorite monster, and that's kind of true. I mean, I think that other monsters are more like duds. Like Barons are more dud monsters.
Oh my fucking god, your opinions are duds, MtPain. I'm about to come and slap.
I forgot that Barons are your favorite. But like they're just I don't know.
Good
There's,
monster, yeah.
yeah, like, I have strong opinions about the cyber demon though, and that counts for something. So.
It's strong opinion is better than just a loose opinion. That's true. I feel like every Doom enemy has its place, and I remember specifically when I was playing Go To It. I'm sure MtPain could get through Go To It more efficiently than I can, just mainly due to practice. But one thing that he noticed was like, dude, you just like run up to those archviles and shoot them. I'm like, yeah, I don't give a fuck about those stupid skinny wimps. It's those cyber demons I'm looking out for.
Right.
And I just remember being like, huh. It was just an interesting but very memorable little micro exchange that we had.
Archviles are terrifying, man. Like they're just like conceptually terrifying. They remind me after I saw Pan's Labyrinth. That's kind of what I pictured, like the monster with the eyes in its hands.
Yeah.
The pale.
Great movie.
Oh yeah, phenomenal. Just they're super freaky. They just seem eviler than the other demons. I know they heal them, but they also like they seem to have less regard for demon life than other demons, which is really interesting. Like they just kind of pick up other monsters and then make them their playthings. I'll never not be interested in the Archvile. Although I did say Pain
Very
Elemental
interesting.
was my favorite monster in the podcast, which I stand by. I love Pain Elementals.
Loves the Pain Elemental, hates the Cyber Demon. Doesn't like Doom City. Oh, this is we're breaking up now.
I just think the Cyber Demon feels like a bit of a slog until you do get really good with the BFG,
Yeah.
and even then it becomes pretty context dependent. Like depending on how the map has built things, like maybe they force you to kill a bunch of cybers with just a plasma gun, and then it's like, well, this is terrible, obviously.
Right.
So it is a little context dependent. I think what I like about them as well is that you can put them in as just something to avoid. Like they teach a lot of lessons to players, I think.
Oh,
like,
sure.
you should keep me alive in this context. You should kill me first in this context. You
Mhm.
should not attack me at all in this context. Like they serve a lot of functions. Like they're too big to deal with in a lot of situations, and then in a lot of scenarios, they're the first and the easiest thing you should deal with. So they're very interesting to use like as a mapper.
I
sure.
don't want us to go too far over time, but I have to say it just because what you were saying touched on it. I don't think anyone ever really picks them as their favorites. I'm sure there are people out there, but honestly, the pawn pieces of Doom are probably more important than any one individual like piece that has its own function. Like by that I mean zombie men, imps, and to a lesser degree pinkies. Like You can just throw them around like fucking popcorn, and it's hardly ever is it gonna have that much of a bad impact, even if it's a little thoughtless. Whereas, like, I always think of them in a chess-like way. Like a Baron, to me, a lone Baron can be fun to fight if I've got some rockets and a bit of movement room. But like, if someone puts a Baron in a cramped hole with a single barrel, the enemy suddenly sucks balls,
Right.
So it's whereas an imp, you can't make fighting an imp be that tedious. It's
Oh, no.
hard to do. So I always think, even though they're never anyone's like total top favorite, the popcorn enemies, the pawns, I do think that they're probably more important than any one specialty enemy, if that makes any sense.
I think
And
like again, that sort of depends because like in a slaughter map, I feel like Hell Knights are the popcorn, right?
Oh, right.
A lot
right.
of the time.
If you've got a bunch of
Definitely.
rockets and plasma, they are. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Revenants and Hell Knights. I also think, to wrap back to Abandon again, the Cyber Demon used in Abandon is phenomenal. Because, like, Abandon and Sunder, you don't want to kill the Cyber Demons when you see them. You want to see, like, how can I use them against the, in an infighting context, mostly. You just get very leery of wasting them, because they can help you.
Well, yeah, Fracture Worlds and a lot of my stuff does that. Breathless has a fight in particular where, like, most of my stuff is like, and Slaughter trains you to keep Cyber Demons alive.
Yep.
For infighting purposes, and then Breathless has a fight where you have to kill the Cybers first. They're like the biggest threat.
Oh.
So it's kind of like, I like messing with player expectations a little bit.
Yeah.
I guess in that regard. And Fracture Worlds in testing, one of the fights, a lot of people were just wasting all of their ammo killing these Cyber Demons that later we use for infighting. And I was like, well, I'm leaving it in because it's UV, so you don't deal with it kind of thing.
Yep.
You got to figure out the correct approach. That's even in maps that aren't slaughter maps. I feel like I had an example. Oh, damn it. I don't want to keep us going too long. Okay, this is really fast. I had an example where there was a fork in the road in one of my maps. It wasn't a particularly hard map, wasn't a slaughter map, but someone was like, if I take the left fork first, the map's harder. I'm like, yeah, that's why there's a fucking fork. If they're both the same difficulty, why even do it?
Precisely.
I think a lot of this comes from how much people play with saves and I guess rewinds and things like that. But people really in Doom, they treat everything as it should be immediate. Things should be immediately apparent. People don't really like to have to think ahead. They don't really like to have to try things out and then figure out what to do. I've discovered a lot.
They want to do small brain dooming, and I don't mean like not difficult, but I mean like they literally just don't want to think.
I'm not saying it's a stupidity thing or anything like that. I'm just saying I think because of the way the game plays and the way you generally play Doom, it doesn't teach people to like play in those ways. I think because it's like, well, I have a save, I'll just use my save. People will use one save and they'll be like, well, I'm at 5% HP, but I need to save after I beat that fight. And then they die to the next fight 1,000 times and they blame the fight or whatever, And there's a lot of like habits from playing regular Doom stuff that doesn't function very well with like more difficult content, I suppose.
I was gonna make a very similar point from the opposite end. Actually, when I was playing, people who start with PWADs might miss this because like when I was playing episode 1 of Doom, it very distinctly taught me the importance of secrets. Like you would have so much more health and ammo if you'd go and look for those out of place panels and stuff. It encouraged you to not just blindly shoot. Like you could get through it playing blind, and I don't mean playing blind, but I mean playing just without thinking much. But if you thought a little bit, it rewarded you. And that was one thing that kind of like a lot of good PWADs. I've guilty of making maps like this myself. It's just like what you see is what you get, and there's not much more than that. And playing back on my own maps that were made in that way always felt kind of hollow to me. I'm like, maps where I did something that made the player think at least a little bit always ended up being more memorable. So anyway, I just wanted to add that little add on to that point you're making there.
All right.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I just had one final thing I wanted to say.
Oh yeah, please do.
I do kind of wish that we would bring back continuous play as a real thing. It's really shitty to balance as a mapper, so I understand why people don't do it. But as a kid, I only played the iWads continuously.
Same.
pistol
I think
starting
everyone
was
did.
not like a thing.
Oh yeah. Same.
The manual
much
told you
later.
specifically the only reason you'll ever have to pistol start is if you die mid-game. So be careful or what. Like the pistol
Yeah.
starting is absolutely like a fan-made idea. The only reason maps were ever made pistol startable was in case you forgot to save before dying at that
Well,
map.
that's not true, because oh no, yeah, I see what you're saying.
It definitely was true. Maybe not necessarily.
They
for
did
early
test
stuff.
them pistol start, yeah, but it
They
was
did,
in case
they
they died, yeah. Good shit.
Yeah. I think a lot of people misunderstood. They're like, yeah, it's beatable by pistol start, therefore that's the intended way. It's like, no. I've heard people make that claim definitively, and I always wanted to do my, well, actually. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I just like the, continuous nature of it, Like, it's less jarring and stuff, and
Well, it makes a
think
lot
if you
more
wanted to build
sense.
something with, like, a story, and and I like the weapon progression concepts you can come up with over the course of a whole WOD. Like, there's a lot more excitement finding a BFG 3 maps into a WOD than,
that you can actually use and
it's-
keep when you translate to when you transition to the next map.
Yeah, and then, like, I don't know, it'd be cool to make a WOD where, like, you have to think about cell management over the course of several maps instead
yeah.
of just in one map kind of thing as well. Like, stuff like that.
That's true. I get really
It's-
reckless with ammo management because I know that I'm gonna throw all my ammo away and I can just get rid of it. But like, if it was like especially like a survival horror type map set, like say 4 maps, where you have to kind of budget your shotgun shells or rockets or things like that, that could be really interesting. Somebody will do it. Moldy did New Game Plus, so somebody will do a continuous set.
well, because I've always considered.
Maybe it'll be me.
Maybe it will.
It should be you, Nirvana. That would actually be awesome. But I've always considered continuous just as valid as pistol starting, and that view in particular isn't that common these days, and it's kind of a shame to me because every other game I can think of, there's a progression element. You're talking about weapon, even the WADs I've made, community projects even. I make sure that the maps are still handing out more, like, if you played Ray Mohawk 2 or Rowdy Rudy 2 continuous, the way 90s Doomers would play most Megawads, you would still find it satisfying because it's like, oh, I'm at map 6 and I'm still, like, or map 7 or 8 and I've only just now got the BFG, like, you're still building up over time, even if you play continuous. It takes the edge off the difficulty for the most part, but it's equally valid, and it is a little frustrating to me, a modern cultural dooming norm.
Yeah, well, at the risk of continuing the conversation,
Yeah. Speaking of continuous, let's pistol start another conversation some other time. I don't know.
yeah.
Well done. That's his years of
Dude.
broadcasting training at work right there.
Wow.
Dude, that was a great pun, MtPain. You're just jealous you can't think of ones on that.
I
Get
actually,
on my level.
this time I will admit it, I am jealous. That was an excellent pun.
This continuous conversation is drawn out, you know what I mean? It's such a shit joke.
Do you want to take us out, Doomkid?
To play us out? What does that mean? What does that mean to play us out? Fucking thing sucks! No, sorry.
Oh, I
The
don't...
Bill O'Reilly meltdown, I hope you guys have both seen it. Otherwise
Yes,
it just makes...
I sort of get the
Okay,
reference. Let's just pull the plug
I
before
have
this
not
gets
seen
any
it,
crazier.
but I am aware of him and his many foibles.
That's the nicest way of putting it.
He is a turd of a man. Let me put it that way.
That's an even more accurate way of putting it.
And on that note,
On that note,
A perfect note to play us out on that. Yeah.
we'll see you next time, folks. This has been...
It was fun. It was really great talking to you guys.
No, yeah, it was really fun. And I don't know if I actually answered, but I definitely will come back for more.
Oh, great. That's awesome.
Good.
More clipping into the ground. That's what I'm excited for.
Yeah, maybe he's
becoming
even-
randomly bold, maybe?